You ruined my new jacket. Kill him a lot.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Misanthropod Movie Club. I'm Snipe and as always I am joined by Whib. Say hello.
Hello.
I'm also joined by drummer Matt. Say hi.
Hi.
That's fantastic. How are you lovely gentlemen during this freezing cold evening?
Doing well despite it being incredibly cold in the UK, indeed. Yes. Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing all right. How are you, Snipe? You coping?
I'm okay. I'm coping fine. I'm a bit worried about how suspicious you just sounded. You're like, yeah, I'm okay.
No, I'm using kiddos as an excuse to have the heating on a bit, so I'm feeling slightly smug but without the guilt, which is quite... Well, I can just pass all that part of guilt on to be like, no, this isn't for me. I didn't turn the heating up for me.
You see, I do the same thing with my action figures. I'm like, no, my Black Series are cold. It's dreadful.
Recommended storage temperature between exactly 21 and 21 degrees. You're like, okay, fine.
Yeah, anything below or above, they explode.
It's a little known fact.
Amongst collectors like myself, it's kind of common knowledge. But
I mean, I think there are actually proper...
I don't actually have any Black Series in the flat right now. They're all at the new house.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I hope it's exactly 21 and 21 degrees in the new house.
I mean, I know there are certain plastics do actually work a lot. Like they do degrade in weird temperatures because there's things people who live in tropical climes. Old action figures can have all sorts of weird things happen to them as it's
just
certain,
like millennials.
certain
really?
Chemicals within them get leached out. Yellowing and stuff on Transformers has been a big problem over the last few years, and gets accentuated in hot climates.
Okay, but I was just making a joke.
Okay, but
anyway,
that
the
cool.
movie we watched.
Yeah,
the movie we watched. We are just avoiding talking about.
It was my pick this time, and I chose the 1992 classic Buffy the Vampire Slayer by Hatsune Miku. And yes, we are going to be using that quite a lot because, quite frankly, fuck Joss Whedon. He's a bad person, and we don't like him.
There's yeah. Well, I mean, in fairness, he only wrote this.
Yeah, and then they changed quite a lot from the sound of it.
Yes, there's a whole thing about that, which we'll get to at the end.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a discussion. We'll bypass it for now.
Yeah,
And
we'll
then-
get to the end of the plot synopsis and what we think
We
about
are
it and all that,
aware.
and then we'll talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry, we know.
So you'd presumably seen this before, Snipe?
I have. This was one of my favorite movies growing up because it was just nice. It's like, hey, look, a blonde girl who has trouble at school and everyone calls her a bimbo is actually really strong and important. That's nice.
Huh, yeah, okay.
Imagine that. Also, it was really funny because, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in a psychotically abusive home. My father would, constantly be like... Because, Buffy's the Valley Girl, the whole, do you have any gum scene in this? But he would be like, God, you're just like her. Do you have any gum? You're a bimbo like that. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm like Buffy. And I was fully did not get it. And it made me, it bolstered me quite a bit. So yeah, this is quite a comforting movie for me. But oh God, going back to it was a little bit very 90s.
Yeah, I've seen it before, but I think I've only ever watched it once before, and it was quite some time ago. And I definitely remember the movie being better than it is.
I appreciate I do have a bit of the rose-tinted nostalgia vision for it. But it's my movie, and I got to pick it, so I don't care. So, let's start. So we have a very cool, very kind of awkward, kind of medieval intro with the actress of Buffy, Kristen Swanson, more on her later, and Donald Sutherland, love that man. Basically, he gives her a fancy ornate knife and is like, oh yes, the Slayer is born, and she's like having physical difficulty holding this knife because it's so heavy. And then she thrusts it into the air, and then it hard cuts to a pom-pom, a cheerleading pom-pom specifically, where they have a not fantastically choreographed cheerleading scene with very 90s music, because Buffy is a cheerleader.
I love that it's not perfectly choreographed, because like so often in these sort of films it would be, but like at a high school it never would be.
Exactly.
I mean, presumably I've never seen high school cheerleading because it's fucking stupid and we don't have it. But
it's fucking creepy, and it's like, hey,
It's
let's
so
all look at the sexy 15-year-old girl. It's fun. It's fun.
yeah.
But no, and like there's a part where like they're doing a sequence where one of them will do a move and then kneel down, and then you can see Buffy at the like front like get up a little bit, and they go, oh no, wait, it's not time yet. And it's that is very fun, because that's just how it works. You're working with fucking, well, I think like they're seniors, so they're like 17 years old.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, about 17 years old. So yeah.
But yeah, it's Christy Stewart.
It's Christy Stewart.
Yeah. It's,
Whatever. I don't care.
Christy Swanson, rather fucking.
Christy Swanson.
I know, because both of us have get her name mixed up with
Kristen Stewart. Yeah. But also
Christy Swanson.
Yeah, she can fuck off for things we'll get into later. And very 90s kind of thing. You see the Monster Hog mascot for the high school.
The pig mascot is fucking horrifying.
The pig mascot looks like a serial killer, and I think that might be Hatsune Miku, but I don't have any proof to back that up.
Does look like him.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's why the camera is just awkwardly on him for way longer than it should be.
I was expecting the pig mascot to come up again later.
Yeah.
Because it like looked at him and they'd gone out of their way to make a costume that's awful.
Did they make a costume?
Well, they found a costume on a street corner.
It congealed. And then you see, she's dancing away, and she's making eyes at one of the basketball players, who is obviously her boyfriend, who is the most 80s, early 90s looking motherfucker.
Oh, there's no 80s in this movie. It is solid gold early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s. He's just a goofus. But yeah, so, and then you kind of go, okay, well, that's Buffy. And then it cuts to her and her gal pals at the mall.
I do just want to point out, you see the basketball coach, who's like a parody of like a touchy-feely liberal.
Yeah.
And he does this whole like...
All of the faculty are in this for some reason.
Yeah, and he's like, repeat after me, I am a person, I have a right to the ball.
Yeah, and it also shows that he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing tactics-wise, because he's got the tactics board, and he's like, oh, are we the X's or the O's?
Apparently that's a football thing on the actual board as well. Wow, according to some trivia that I read.
That's a nice bit of trivia as well. And then like all of the there's a man there who looks like a gorilla. I'm sorry, that man is 50 years old. Who's playing a 7. It's so funny.
Yeah,
there are so many full ass adults in this being children. It's so funny. And then we cut to Buffy with her girls. They're shopping at the mall. And we get to see that, Pretty Girl's stupid.
Yeah.
Because you can't get that. Like, they're going up the elevator, and Buffy's complaining that she got a C+ on her history test. And I remember using this exact insult on a teacher and actually getting detention for it, which was like, Mr. So-and-so says I have no sense of history. I have no sense of history. He wears a brown tie. Which I thought was fucking hilarious. And then, and honestly, C+ on a history, that's pretty good for the grades I got growing up.
Yeah, the whole thing is obviously supposed to set up that Buffy is in a friend group and they're all like
a
fairly...
little bit vapid.
They're all,
because they're, women who are interested in fashion and how they look are bad, obviously.
Well, I think what the point is to, or the idea is to make it to show the juxtaposition of this kind of vapid existence that she starts in to, against what she ends up as throughout the movie, but it does just come across as
women bad.
Women be shopping.
Yeah,
women are vapid.
She does talk about or
at least young girls are.
Yeah. Well, my favorite kind of quote from this is because you need to show that she's a valley girl. Is well, I'm so sorry that I don't know about El Salvador, like I'm ever going to Spain anyway. And I'm like, haha, but
I will say they do say the word sitch.
Sitch constantly. They
50
say
times,
sitch
and it
so
drives
much.
it started to drive me fucking nuts. I am glad they stopped doing it after about 10 minutes into the movie because it was
They
driving
do
me.
drop a few sitches like later on, but it feels a lot more natural,
Yeah,
and it feels like there's not a middle-aged Hatsune Miku running them.
Yeah.
So they're shopping. They see a beautiful yellow leather jacket, and Buffy's in love with it. And Kimberly, one of her friends, is like, "Please, that is so 5 minutes ago." And then you've got the yes man Jenny going, yeah, it's 5 minutes ago," establishing the dynamic that women be shopping, but they be bitches as well, because
This is what movies have taught us.
This is what movies are teaching us. As she gets into a lift because they've decided to go see a movie, Donald Sutherland shows up and tries to get on the lift, and she's like, "Excuse much, rude or anything?" And then obviously closes the door. And then she goes, "Oh fuck, it's Donald Sutherland. I love that guy."
One of her friends just goes, what a homeless. I'm like, fucking hell. To describe someone as a homeless.
To be fair, this is like the hills.
Oh yeah,
This is California,
yeah.
so it makes sense. So, then we meet Pike and Benny, who are there.
Because they're in the cinema and the girls are being loud.
And they're like sat directly in front of the line in front of them. And they're like giggling and carrying on, and Buffy's talking about her boyfriend staying the night, and they're all like, "I'm gonna die a virgin. I wish my parents didn't care about me and were never home." And Benny and Pike, Pike is played by fucking Luke Perry.
Luke Perry.
R.I.P. And then there's just David Arquette playing Benny.
Now, these characters, I love them because David Arquette is the character he is playing is Skull. He is playing Skull from Power Rangers.
He is.
And that means that, especially because his relationship with Pike is as such, especially like in the early parts, they are just Bulk and Skull. And
they are.
As such, I will refer to those characters exclusively as that in my notes.
Would you say Pike is Bulk?
Pike is Bulk, yes.
Okay.
Because David Arquette is just playing Skull.
He is. He's just a little bit...
Even he's wearing a shirt with a skull on it.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I just am reminded of how the 90s formed my attraction of men. How I'm, like, looking at Pike and Benny going, yep.
It should be noted that you are not supposed to find Pike attractive at this point.
Because he has a soul patch.
Because even though he is Luke Perry, he has a soul patch. And as we all know, that means that a teen heartthrob is no longer a teen heartthrob if they have a soul patch.
They can't be hot if they have any facial hair, which was very 90s, to be fair. Because then if a man has facial hair, then he turns from non-threatening boy to threatening boy. Because that's a bit too far.
Yes.
That's a bit scary. So they start, like, arguing, and she throws a Twizzler at him, and I'm like, God, why can't she throw a Twizzler at me? I love Twizzlers. Then, they finish the movie, they go outside, and then we meet Jeffrey, Buffy's boyfriend, and his two friends, Andy and Gruler. Gruler is played by a 45-year-old man.
I love it how you have remembered the names of these characters. I didn't like half of this shit. I just didn't note down. I'm just like, oh, that's just Guy.
You can do that, but I remember names. It's fine.
I managed to intuit it wouldn't matter that I didn't know their names.
Well, yeah, they are kind of just. If you put, like, sexist stamped it on his friend Andy, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hate Jeffrey. And you're supposed to as well. Cause
yeah,
he's
you are supposed to hate him.
Because, like, obviously she's a cheerleader. She's dating, like, basketball team guy. They're jock idiots. They're jocks. She, like, leans over the passenger seat and, like, fully, like climbs halfway down Jeffrey's throat. And then... See, Andy says this, but because her butt is like right there, and he did say he didn't want to try and sound sexist, so thank God for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that qualifier, Andrew. He was like, I don't want to sound sexist or anything, but can I borrow her? To which Buffy's like, oh, Andy, and her wonderful boyfriend goes, no, you'd get her dirty. Which is love that.
Yeah,
love that.
90s. Not that it was acceptable then, but like...
It was more acceptable, but yeah.
I mean, you're not supposed to like that guy, but also,
No.
also at this point, I don't think you're supposed to explicitly hate him yet.
He's just kind of a jock douchebag, you
Yeah.
know. So, and then it cuts to Buffy's house, and she's obviously quite well to do, and her parents are fucking shelled out in like the tracksuit with the visors.
Oh, that's not yet. That's not yet. No, because that goes off and...
Wait, no, I did miss a bit. But yeah, the 40-year-old basketball player, Gruler, because he split before like the chauvinists show up.
I mean this I don't mean this in a mean way. This is just the notes that I took, which is that this guy has a face so chiseled that he looks like the cartoon like animation model for an action figure.
He really does have like the Chad kind of jawline.
Yeah, just like
It's really out there.
he has got a chiseled face.
And
like,
his eyebrows are so thick. I didn't think vampire. I thought werewolf.
he would
Especially
play,
with the basketball
He would play
scene.
a good werewolf.
He would have played a good werewolf.
I mean that
And
entirely as
he's all
a
like,
compliment.
He's like, hey, I gotta get back and file my 401k. The fuck is someone sneak? And it's Paul Rubens being all spooky on a carousel, looking quite delicious.
Yeah, he's... Because, yes, what he's actually doing, he's walking through the park and you can tell that someone is chasing him.
Yeah.
Or if someone is around there and he's, like, trying to figure out who's around him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yes, you see Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, on a carousel with a look that I think is quite fun.
He looks incredible. I did not know
like...
for years that was P.B. Herman. I did not know.
Did you say P.B. Herman?
I said Pee-wee.
Oh, okay.
I did not know that was him for years, honestly. But then, like, because he's got long kind of, like, back-combed hair, he's got a beard, I do like the look of the vampires in this, how they just permanently have big, long fangs and, like, kind of squiggly ears.
They're also all wearing very red lipstick.
They are, yeah. And they're all dressed a bit grunge or, like, goth, and I'm like, well, this is my aesthetic. That explains a lot about my life.
Paul Rubens, his look is inspired by the look that he had when he was arrested by the police and had his mugshot taken in 1991. Mm-hmm. And his look is inspired by that. I've heard him... I've seen a quote floating around that he said it's because it's the coolest he's ever looked.
Yeah.
And it also allows him to own it, because the reason, if you're worried and you don't know, the reason he got arrested was he was
jerking.
he had his dick out at a
theater.
porno theatre, and then and it got raided. And call me silly, but like if you're going to have your dick out in a public place, then at a porno theatre is kind of, I think is...
I will say, if you
whatever.
are jerking off, context is incredibly important, and... Dirty theaters are that's where you jerk off publicly.
What are you meant to do? You meant to just go and watch the film and
You
not
just
do
sit there
anything.
and get a sore dick because you're not jerking off. It's like,
jerking off in a I don't know if it's still the same, but it used to be the thing where jerking off in a porno theatre was actually illegal.
That was, It's because it counts as indecent exposure, even though, it's very silly. Everyone's weird when it comes to pornography.
Yeah.
Speaking as a pervert myself. But yeah. And they cut to Buffy's house where her parents are, shell suit. I think one of them has golf clubs, probably. And they're like, oh yeah, stay away from the jag.
I did really like, because this scene starts with Buffy's boyfriend watching TV.
Yeah.
And there's a news reporter like
you
halfway
got down
through
the quote that I've got?
halfway through a story where it's like, the apparent cause of death was a severe neck wound that resembled, in the words of one bystander, a really gross hickey.
And I'm like, that is so California, it hurts me. That's so Beverly Hills, I love it. And, she's like, they're like, oh, just stay away from the jag, and, leaving her at home with obviously her boyfriend. And she sits down, and they leave, and you can hear the car leave. And before the car is driven away, because her mum turns around and goes, oh, bye, Bobby, talking to Jeffrey. And he's like, oh, yeah, bye. And then she sits down, and he's like, does she seriously think my name's Bobby? And she's like, it's possible that she thinks my name is Bobby, basically like, oh, my parents neglect me. And her boyfriend's like, that's so sad, we should fuck. And she's like, yeah, I guess. So, we have a tasteful fade to black while he's eating chips and she's eating popcorn. I mean, honestly, we know, like, how would this have worked?
They're kind of... They're
from two different worlds.
They're making out, but, like, Buffy does not seem, like, super enthused.
No, but, I mean, that's pretty accurate, really. I can imagine sex with that guy would be pretty fucking miserable. It'd be like, I think I'd rather just go on a fucking 12-mile bike ride, but thanks. Then she has, then we have a Slayer flashback of in like medieval times again, of a vampire like chewing on some guy, and she bursts in dressed like a busty barmaid with that big mole on display, and just gets fucking rocked because she's shit and terrible. He just like kind of shoves her a bit, and she's like, ah, like flings like and runs outside, and then she honestly, it's pretty dope. She like jumps out the window and lands on him, and then kills him. And then it's Pee Wee Herman and his like group kind of walk up, and she's like, oh shit. And then Rutger Hauer descends from on high, as he is wont to do. Rest in peace, sir.
Rutger Hauer has struck the movie.
Rutger Hauer mentioned. And I forgot to say, the yellow leather jacket, that's going to be really fucking important. Just keep that in mind.
I'm going to be honest, I acknowledged it being in the movie, but I don't think I ever mentioned it in my notes, because I was
It's really important, though. Anyway. And yeah, he appears and he's like, he shouts at the sky that this is their world now, and then kills her. And she wakes up and it was a dream. And I always thought this was weird, because I'm like, well, where's Jeffrey? Wasn't he staying the night? Did he just like pump and dump and leave?
Presumably. The Rutger
Sorry, was that
Hauer...
a gross term? Did you not like that?
Apparently that was my limit, yeah.
I mean, that is what it's called, but I'm sorry.
Rutger Hauer's character is said here to be called Lothos, by the way.
He is, Lothos, yes. Then we cut to Lothos just chilling in, honestly, the most aesthetic fucking room I've ever seen. And we've got Pee Wee Herman coming up to him. And he's talking to, you don't see him, but you see like there's like a red coffin, and he's talking into it, and he's like, my master, I am building you an army, soon will be legion. And then you see a hand rise out, and he kisses it, and and I'm just immediately like, oh, these guys are in a relationship. This is a dom sub thing. Okay.
Pee Wee Herman's character, Paul
Alan.
Rubens' character,
Alan.
yeah, I don't think his name is
It is
ever
never
said.
said. It's only listed in the credits.
Yeah, it's never said in the movie. That character was originally written as a female character. So, yeah, there's some traits that are obviously carried across from that, and it makes the movie more interesting.
It really does, and like there seems
yeah.
to be like a bit of romantic kind of jealousy there. About
I
Buffy
subscribe to
and I really like that.
I subscribe to the What We Do in the Shadows idea, which is that all vampires have sucked and fucked their way through history, and so they have no hang-ups about like that at all.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you just lived forever, you'd occasionally be like, well, I might as well suck a dick.
Funnily
Just
enough,
once.
Funnily enough, Paul Rubens does show up in What We Do in the Shadows as dressed up as this character.
That is so cool. I love that so much.
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
And then we cut to school in the morning. And they're discussing, because they're seniors, they've been put in charge of choosing a theme for their senior dance. And they've decided that the theme is going to be environment. And we see, girls do be stupid, because there's like one of the friend group called Cassandra, who's like, she's like the one who helps them all with their homework. It's insinuated and stuff like that. And she's like, okay, well, we need like something to talk about, you know, like, what do we do? And, you know, what's the biggest threat to the environment? And they're like, litter. Bugs? Because, you know, girls do be stupid.
What I'm just going to say here is I thought it was awfully rich for whoever the writer of this movie was.
Who knows?
To make something that kind of feels like a jab at people who make lip service to progressive causes, but then don't actually believe or have much knowledge about it. I think it's really rich for whoever wrote this movie to do that, because it'd be really funny if that really accurately described them.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
It'd be wild, wouldn't it?
Irony would be delicious.
Yeah. Sorry, that just was the thing that bothered me.
Yeah. And then you see them all hanging out and the first bell rings. And then Lynn Boyle, Charles Boyle's father from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, comes up. He's a principal. And he's like, yeah, we should go to class. And everyone's like, okay, that's fine. And then they're like,
I wondered where I recognised him from.
Yeah, it's Lynn Boyle. He's a lot younger in this, because that was like 20-something years ago, but still.
1992 is more than 20 years ago.
I said like 20 years ago, so that's fine. Shut up. Girls do be shopping! Fuck off! And they're like, oh, let's go to this bar. And Buffy agrees, but then she goes, oh, maybe I should, because I've got to get a head start on my homework. And then they all laugh because homework is for men? I don't know.
I thought the implication
it was obviously an implication of, haha, as if we need to do homework.
No, I thought the implication was that when she says homework, she means, like, making out with a boyfriend.
No,
because like with the
I
way
don't think so.
Because the way it was like looking at the boyfriend and stuff, that's kind of what I
have never seen it. I always saw it as kind of a haha, as if I study. Because women do be like that.
I was trying not to pay too close attention to the large portions of this movie, so that I maybe just misinterpreting.
Wow, okay. Anyway, it cuts to a rough bar where the subtitles reliably inform me that reggae pop is playing, which is nice of them.
Good.
I love me a bit of reggae pop.
Oh, reggae pop, it's definitely a genre. And they're all talking about the dance and everything. And who should show up but Kimberly and Jenny? And Kimberly is wearing the yellow leather jacket. Jacket mentioned.
Drink.
Jacket mentioned.
Jacket mentioned. And she's like, what? And then they have like a bit of a betrayal thing of like, well, I thought you said that look was over. And she's like, yeah, but it's like retro. I'll let you borrow it sometime. And she's like, okay, fine. And then who should walk in? But Bulk and Skull. I really want to re-edit this movie.
Yeah. Just to put that behind every time on the screen.
What?
The waitress that Bulk and Skull are served by, if I remember correctly, is Ricky Lake.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I read that on a trivia thing, but I couldn't remember.
I don't know if that's
couldn't
true.
remember what
I've watched a lot of Ricky Lake.
I could not remember what Ricky Lake looked like, so I looked back and I was like, well, I can't remember what Ricky Lake looks like, and who has access to Google? So,
not me. But yeah, and then they're kind of like, because they're drunk.
Yeah.
Because bad guys, I guess. It's like it's almost as if grunge men who get drunk are bad, whereas jocks who get drunk, fine? I don't get it, but whatever. They dump like a handful of coins on the waitress's like waiting plaque, like I don't know, like the tray. And they're like, well, what does that look like? And she's like, 2 coffees or a hot dog with nothing on it. And they say, thank you, Charlotte, bye. And she wanders off. And they start hitting on Buffy and her friends, not recognizing them from the troublemakers at the movie they saw. Because they're fucking drunk. And like Buffy makes a joke about them being drunk. And they realize who she is. And they're like, oh, we hate you. Oh my god. And you know, Benny decides to be a complete twat and put the hot dog sausage over his dick and is like, hey, Buffy, I got something if you want to eat it because it's like a penis. Do you get it? And while all of her friends are squealing like, ah, like someone just shoved a worm on a stick in their face, Buffy perfectly like just eviscerates this hot dog.
Well, she like bisects it like down the middle with a knife, and this bit is really badly edited.
It's not good.
So it's really confusing because they obviously couldn't figure out how to show what was happening. So it's like a couple of like reaction shots and quick.
And
cuts.
you hear a.
And it's like I've been trying to conceptualize how she managed to cut it in that manner from that angle.
It is pretty especially with a butter knife, because that is a blunt ass knife.
Like to make a neat cut, like straight down the center of a hot dog requires like a hard surface and a sharp knife. Neither of those things are present.
That's because she's the chosen one.
If she'd have just chopped the end off it, it'd make perfect sense. That would have been fine. You could have done that with the thing, but no, they chose to make the cut be the way that makes someone who is going to wonder about that just
always wondered about
just
that.
Get derailed while think whatever's happening for the next 5 minutes. There's just in the back of their mind they're going, but how did that hot dog thing work?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not saying that my mind is normal, but that is what my mind does when I see something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, but it is a valid point. It is because you see the two halves of the hot dog perfectly cut down the middle with what amounts to a butter knife.
Yeah.
And it is a bit strange. Then we cut to Bulk and Skull. I'll just adopt that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Drunkenly staggering along like a high up road, the hills, because it's Beverly Hills. There's at least 3 hills in Beverly Hills. I have been reliably informed. And Pike's complaining, and he's going, I need to get this part because he's like a mechanic. I need to get this part for my truck because I can't. I want to leave this place. It's bullshit and it's bad. And Benny decides to become, and I've written down, the CEO of misogyny because he's bitching about all these rich girls and how they're all the same and how they're stupid and he hates them and they're barely even human. And Pike's like, well, would you fuck one? And he's like, definitely. I'd give my right eye to fuck Buffy especially.
The phrase that he uses, which I noted down because it's one of those phrases that when you hear, you have to take a moment.
Yeah.
Which is, her yarbos scoff at gravity.
And I don't want to be gross about it, but she's 17. They're going to. I'm sorry. And they sit down and they have a bit of a drunken talk. And Pike speaks up because he respects women.
He's been drinking that respect women juice.
He's like, don't know what Benny's been taking shots of.
The disrespect women juice.
The disrespect women juice. But Pike, he's been taking shots of the respecting women juice. And he goes, oh, you'd bone her, but you don't even like her. That's bad. And then he looks at the camera and goes, respect women, kids.
And then he collapses.
And then he
collapses because he's drunk.
He collapses. And Benny looks over the edge and he's like, oh, I'm going to be sick. And then he manages to stay upright. But Pike falls over. And he does, it's quite a clever kind of bit of filmography where he looks down over the kind of ledge they're sitting on and you see like a sheer drop. So when you see Paul Rubens like pop up, you go, oh, he's floating because he's a vampire. I mean, as if we didn't already know he's a fucking vampire. He's palling around with his vampire daddy boyfriend. And he's got teeth that are 3 inches long.
I don't think anyone was not thinking he was a vampire.
Well, maybe it's just to kind of show off his power.
Yeah,
vampires can fly.
It shows that vampires can fly, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, and just as Donald Sutherland drives up, Benny gets munched on and pulled away. And Donald Sutherland picks him up and takes him...
Picks up Bulk/Pike.
Yeah. And yeah, you see him helping. And then it's a cheer practice. And we're pointing out that Jenny is dumb because she's dumb. And they're still talking about the theme for the senior dance, and she's like, how about we get, like, a big sign that says, don't tread on me. And then, like, a picture of the earth.
Well, that just explains why they're really annoying, because they're all libertarians.
And Buffy is like, because Buffy's different. And she's like, how do you, like, not tread on the earth? I mean, you kind of, like, have to, right? And she's like, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah. And it said that Cassandra is coming to help Buffy with her history, because, you know, she got that C+, because she's never going to Spain.
Yep.
And then before Jenny leaves, she turns around and goes, by the way, I kind of loaned Cassandra Kimberly's yellow leather jacket. Jacket mentioned. It's important. So don't, like, tell her.
This
and Jenny's like,
so unimportant.
Is it?
Yes.
Or is it? No, listen. And then Jenny just leaves, and I'm just like, why would you, like, grab a friend and go, oh, I loaned the jacket that was loaned to me to someone else. Don't tell Kimberly who I loaned the jacket off. Even though you're like a little yes man. And
subtlety in screenwriting is for cowards.
Yeah, fully. Nice one, whoever wrote this, who I hate.
It does the job.
And then you see her doing a bunch of, like, honestly pretty cool tumbles. And I think the actress did do a couple herself, but not the majority, which is fine. And Donald Sutherland is just in the corner watching her being a creeper. Super fucking creepy.
Yep.
And obviously she's made jump by this, and she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to be creepy in the corner and tell you that there's vampires, and you are the chosen one and I'm part of your birthright. And she's like, what, birthright? Is that like some kind of trust fund or something? And he's like, if you like. But we need to go to the graveyard right now. And honestly, credit where it's due, the way she kind of goes, no, and kind of walks off and puts a jacket on.
She's like, yeah, no, you're definitely a nonce. Fuck off.
Yeah. She puts a leather jacket on, and he just tries to convince her, and he's saying, no, you're the chosen one. You need to come to the graveyard. And she's like, no, I don't believe you. Does Elvis talk to you? Do you see spots? And he's like, yes, spots, the mark of the coven. And he's pointing at where the mole is. And she's like, ooh, that big gross mole, I had that removed. And he looks horrified at that, which is very funny. And she's not buying it at all. So she storms off and is like, stop trying to nonce me, I'm leaving. And he's calling after her going, oh, don't you have dreams about when you're someone else? And she's like, yes, doesn't everybody? And he's like, no. What about problematic dreams written by white men? Like, maybe you were a barmaid or an Indian princess or a slave. And she's like, yep, I was dreaming about being a slave on a big farm or something. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's
cool.
Handled fantastically. Nice work, whoever wrote this, who I hate. And she kind of goes, okay, well...
I've just realised that because in all of the flashbacks to previous things, they're played by the same actors and actresses.
I'm glad they didn't flashback to her being a different ethnicity.
Oh god, there could have very easily been a blackface scene in this movie. Oh god, I'm glad they didn't do that.
Very, very much so, yeah. And she agrees to go to the graveyard with him. So they go there, and she's like, oh, I'm having cramps. And he's like, aha, good, which is a bit strange. So they sit down, and he points her in front of a grave, and he's like, oh, this is some schmuck who died 3 days ago. He was buried 3 days ago. He had a lot of, tearing to the neck and shoulder, exsanguination, all that kind of, basically just standard vampire shit, and gives her a cross and a stake, and tells her to sit basically on a grave opposite that. And here we have the do you have any gum scene, which always bolstered me as a young'un. Because, just in case you forgot that she is a girl, a valley girl, just in case.
I think the problem is, like, I think a lot of it is just meant to be the frivolity of youth, but since that is indistinguishable from misogyny, it means that whatever was intended, it ends up in the same place anyway.
It ends up a bit worse. Yeah.
And
then we have a hard cut to Cassandra wearing the yellow jacket mentioned, in the car park, and she hears Pee Wee Herman laughing, not in that magical tone, more in a kind of ha ha ha, so gonna kill you kind of way, which is and then it just cuts back to Buffy and Merrick, Donald Sutherland's character, just chilling out in the graveyard. And then the dude breaks out, who is obviously being pulled up by wires and is 80 yard to just...
He's got big teeth in,
He's got big teeth. And because he's basically an extra, he doesn't have teeth that fit his mouth. Because those cost extra. So he's like... It's very funny. And it's interesting because the suits that people are buried in aren't full suits. They are actually kind of just, they're like wraparounds.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
he's wearing a full suit. It's almost like he knew his booty was going to be out and he didn't want to be a little bit... And Merrick jumps to kill the vampire and is immediately just thrown over this guy's shoulder.
Totally
whiffs
it.
He's like, oh my god, it's Donald Sutherland, I'm panicking. You're my favourite actor, I love you. And Buffy stands up. And there's two hands, like a woman breaks out of the grave that she was just sitting on and starts like grabbing her legs and she's freaking out.
There's another vampire. Oh my
there's
God.
2 vampires. We thought there would be 1. But there was 2. That's,
Buffy stakes them both.
Yeah, she stakes the guy vampire who was attacking Donald Sutherland. And then he throws one very nonchalantly, another stake to her and he's like, oh, behind you. On the woman who I love, oh bless her, this woman, in her oversized vampire teeth and her honestly milkmaid ass fucking like funeral dress, if my family buried me in that, I know they wouldn't love me. And she's kind of like obviously jumping over a few things to try and get to Buffy, and then just gets staked in the tits anyway. And Buffy's like, oh, because it was basically a thing she did out of muscle memory.
Yeah.
And she's kind of shook. And I think that's quite cool, especially like because if you're a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show, which I think did a lot of what this movie kind of did, but way better, because I mean it was done like 6 years after, and with a good few more different ideas, like the vampires in the animated series the TV series would turn to dust, and stuff like that, whereas the ones in this just get staked and just lie there.
Yeah, they're just a corpse.
They
usually just conveniently fall off camera, though, which is quite useful.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Like, they don't have much budget for this.
Yeah, there are times when they highlight it, but for the most part, you're just not supposed to think about all of the corpses.
Yeah. All the corpses of obvious vampires with, like, changed pointy, squiggly ears and, like, elongated canine teeth.
Yeah.
And, like, a lot of them have, like, claws.
A little bit of claws going on.
They've got a bit of a claw thing going on, which is cool. I dig that. Which I think what they did in the TV series was a lot better with making them turn into dust and also having their vampire face turning on rather than just looking like vampires all the time, which, yeah, that's fine.
Well, after the staking, it goes to Bulk/Pike's.
Oh yeah, and he's
where he
listening
lives.
to the worst cover of I Fought the Law and the Law Won I've
it's
ever
terrible.
fucking heard. It is atrocious. I'm like, yeah, mate, I'd be trying to sleep through this shit as well. It's awful.
But he, like, lives above a garage.
Yeah,
so.
because, again, he's a mechanic. And he hears a knocking on his window. And it's Benny with pointy vampire ears and obvious vampire fangs floating outside his window.
I like how Benny/Skull is just like, I'm hungry.
I'm a big hungry boy. I'm so hungry.
And Bulk is just like, oh, well, just piss off because you're floating and that's weird.
My favorite thing is, like, because it cuts to Benny outside floating, and then Pike goes, "Are you on something, man?" And he goes, "No." And then just laughs, and I'm like, okay, that's really funny.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, "Come on, Pike, let me in, I'm hungry." And he's like, "Oh, you're floating, go away." And he's like, oh, okay, fine. It was, I do like that. Of just, hey buddy, it's like, you're floating, go away.
Yeah.
If I woke up and Drummer Matt was floating outside my window again, I'd probably let him in this time. I'm sorry about last time, Matt.
I was just hungry.
Yeah, you were like, I'm a big hungry boy. All I've had to eat today is a sack of mayonnaise. That's a deep cut for you right there.
Come on, we need...
Yeah. So we cut back to Donald Sutherland, or Merrick, driving Buffy back to her house. And he's telling her, like, you need to go here to this address tomorrow after school, which is, like, my house where I'll train you. Because he lives in, like, this fancy old building. So he's got a lot of floor space. Very nice. Looks very hard to heat, though. Why the fuck did I go there? And she's like, I don't want to skip cheerleading practice. And he's like, well, tough, because vampires will kill everybody. And you have to. And she kind of agrees begrudgingly. And then confirms the thing of, oh, they can't come in unless you invite them in. And he agrees that that's true. And he talks about how the vampires must not know her name. I think it must be some kind of magical thing of where if they know her name, that they just instantly all know who she is.
I mean, that's a pretty common thing in, like, magic stuff.
Well, knowing someone's
like,
true name
or
is
fictional
a
thing.
big
Yeah,
thing,
if you know their actual name, then you can affect them.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that. And you get a bit of a scene where Buffy enters her house. She is covered in cemetery dirt, which folks will think maybe that's not different to real dirt. It is. Cemetery dirt is way harder to get out of clothes. Trust me, I know this.
She's got a bit of blood on her face.
She's got blood on her. She's
not her
obvious,
blood, but
it's not hers. But she's roughed up, and her mother bumps into her when she comes in. She's like, "Do you have any idea what time it is?" And she's like, around 10. And she's like, "Oh, thank you. I knew my watch was slow. You pay a fortune for something. Merv, we're gonna be late." And you neglect. And, to show how her parents don't even fucking
Yeah, they
care.
are the most absent parents.
The most absent fucking parents.
Which does at least establish why they don't give a fuck about anything that's happening in the entire movie.
Yeah. And you see Buffy go, and she's trying to clean off the blood off her leather jacket, which I've written down. Can't get blood out of jacket. Written by a cis man. You learn how to get blood out of fucking anything, let me tell you. If you've killed as many people as me... Then it cuts to her, like, she's in, I don't know, I tend to see, like, nightgowns as a very old kind of thing. And she's wearing, like, a white nightgown. And she ties a red ribbon around her head. And honestly, this scene, still to this day, makes me quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It freaks me out because it has, like, a kind of, like, background kind of noise to it. Which is always used in a lot of kind of very unsettling kind of scenes quite effectively.
Yep.
And it's kind of got that amping up kind of like whine in the background. And she goes and she gets into bed and Lothos is just sat on her bed. And she basically climbs into his lap and he hands her her teddy bear, Lancelot. He's not mentioned. He's not named in this, but that's what her teddy bear's called. And then she cuddles up to it and you see his room beyond her bed. And then like she turns over in his arms and he puts his hand on her head. And she wakes up, and it was a nightmare. And I'm like, that still makes my skin crawl to this day.
But she's still wearing the red
she's still
bow,
wearing the red ribbon around her hair.
which is a weird thing to wear to go to bed in, so, you know.
It's kind of foreshadowing, and maybe I'm just, like, no-pricing this, but I feel that that's foreshadowing the fact that Lothos has an entrancing power on her. So she looks as confused as anyone that she's got a ribbon around her head.
Yeah, no, you're not.
What?
You're not missing that. That's
I feel that that's
just
just like it's showing that he has control over her while she is not there.
Yeah,
which is freaking scary. And then it cuts to Cassandra, who was wearing the yellow leather jacket. Jacket has not been mentioned. We do not see the leather jacket. Who's being woken up by a very sarky little fucking Pee Wee Herman who's like, wake up, sweetie, you'll be late for school. And I'm like, I love how much of a bitch this character is.
I will say, and this kind of leans into my overall feelings about the movie, but the movie itself is of a level of quality, but it is elevated greatly by the fact that there are so many actors in this that are
just living it up,
just hamming it up, and are like really they are putting their all into not a lot.
Yeah,
and it makes the movie a lot more watchable than it would be were people not really going for it.
Well, I was talking about this,
and Paul Rubens is definitely one of those doing that.
He is a joy to watch. He is an absolute, and his chemistry with Rutger Hauer as Lothos. Perfection. I love it. Donald Sutherland, like the weird flourishes he puts into Merrick's character are phenomenal. And like I was talking to you earlier, it's like he's telling her about like her birthright and everything, and he is so intense. And he's talking bollocks. He's like, there's vampires, Buffy, and you're big and very scary, and you are a pretty girl with boob mole who can fight them. And I'm like, fuck, he's right. Like he is so earnest and like intense with it. I'm like, he could have been like, time for Tubby bye-bye. You know, I would have been like, fucking shit, maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
That would have been life-changing. The way he commands that fucking the chemistry of all the actors in here is fantastic, and honestly, it does make the movie so much better than it actually is. So, and then you have Lothos being the dramatic bitch he is. It's just mid-air and like vampire reveals himself with his cape. He's like, the reveal.
It's like a weird combination of it looking quite stylish and incredibly shit at the same time.
Because you can see he's holding onto poles that are keeping his cape upright.
It's like quite poorly done.
It's so good.
But it's also kind of great.
I think if it had been done well, it would have looked as good.
No, it definitely could have been better, and it would have been better.
No,
I don't think it's quite that. I don't think it's quite shit enough that it makes the movie better. I think it's just kind of funny that it's shit.
Just love the idea that Pee Wee Herman, Aelin, is is just there to support his theatrical husband.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, like, you've got to keep your eyes... He loves the reveal, so just be like, oh my god. Okay, thank you. Okay. You can come down now, honey. Then we see Buffy in the locker room, and she's a little bit late for practice. She comes in, starts taking off her... it's like a green polka dot mesh shirt.
Don't question
Whatever
90s
it
fashion.
is.
Don't question it.
Whatever
it just
it
is.
I want a black version. And Merrick's there, being just creeping up in the fucking locker room.
Yeah, God
And
knows how
Buffy-
long. God knows how long he's been there, just
Yeah, 'cause-
hiding in the corner of a girl's locker room.
When Buffy comes in, they're all finished getting changed and leaving. Was he there the whole time? I think he might have been. Bit problematic. Cancel Merrick. I think his name's John Merrick. Yeah, cancel Merrick on Twitter.
Isn't John Merrick the Elephant Man?
Maybe. I think, you know what?
I don't-
Same person. It's
I don't
really
think they
weird.
ever give him a name other than Merrick.
I think I might be confused. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm always confused. And quite rightly so, Buffy calls him out. She's like, what are you doing here? This is a naked place. And he ignores her concerns.
That is the actual line, by the way.
This is a naked place. And Buffy at this point is just straight up in denial. She hates the fact that she isn't able to do things that she cares about, like cheerleading practice, or hang out with her friends, or help her friends plan the dance, because suddenly this world-ending vampire bullshit has been dropped in her lap, and she resents it, so she's going full denial, which, who can blame her? She is 17 years old.
I quite like how Merrick is like, well, yeah, you are undisciplined, frivolous, vacuous, so, maybe you're not the right person.
And she's like, yes, thank you!
then-
You can stop now!
And then he's just like, but one more thing, and then just throws a fucking knife at her head.
The flourish he does because he flicks up the corner of his mustache before he throws the knife. And she captures it without even thinking. And I love his bravo. Like a little clap and bravo. And then obviously she's rightly horrified that this man threw a knife at her head after perving on her friends getting changed for cheerleader practice. And he's like, oh, well, I needed to prove it to you because only the chosen one could have caught that knife. She backs him against a bench and is like, she forces him to sit down because, she's basically squaring up to him. And she's like, last night you knew I was sitting on a fresh grave, didn't you? And he just turns around and goes, well, yes, because you needed to understand. And she punches him in the face, which moves him a meter back.
Yeah, it turns out she's real good at punching.
She's real good at punching. And he does, because he's got a little thing, Merrick has, with his handkerchief.
Yeah.
He pulls it out of his thing, his sleeve, and she's like, oh my god. And she looks horrified, but she's not horrified because she's hit him. She's horrified because she's never hit someone before. And she says, I've never hit anyone before. And he just replies with, really? Well, no, he replies with, really? Well, you did it perfectly. And then she remarks, because women do be like this, I didn't even break a nail. And as somebody who has done boxing and who likes wearing long nails, that does genuinely piss me off. You can't have nice long nails when you're throwing punches. They do snap, and nails to get a certain looking a nice way. It's some effort. It's some cognitive load there, and it's really annoying. I'm on her side. But yeah, then we have a very fun montage where he's training her, and she's slipping up occasionally, and credit to the actress, she's doing pretty well. She's doing okay. One of my favorite things is where she does like a front roll and throws a steak, and then it cuts to Merrick looking at it's like a stuffed sandbag body that they're hanging from the ceiling so she can like throw steaks at it, and it's just got a stake through its right knee. And he's face palming, being like, oh my god.
Yeah, but that vampire, they weren't a whole vampire, they were just a leg vampire.
They didn't have hands.
So,
they didn't have feet.
they staked a leg vampire.
Also,
Yeah.
they used to be an adventurer.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Someone had to. I'm sorry.
No, they didn't have to, but you wanted to make us suffer, so that's interesting. Then they're talking in like after training, and he's asking her how in her dreams, when she encounters Lothos, how does he make her feel? And she says, he scares me. Then it cuts to Principal Boyle watching Buffy run in because she's late for school. Because obviously she's like training all night. She's killing vampires all night. She's exhausted. And you see her in the principal's office, and he's trying to be the cool, relatable teacher.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on with you? Is it drugs? Because I got experiences with drugs. I mean, I went to a Doobie Brothers concert once, and I did a bunch of
LSD.
This. Whilst and yeah, Buffy's like messing with a.
She takes a pushpin off his desk and she's messing with it because you can tell she's like actively listening. She's like, okay, wondering where this is going.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, and I felt like a big toaster, and you know, he's just carrying on. He's getting into
having this hallucinogenic experience.
Yeah, and there's a fly buzzing around, and Buffy kind of puts the pushpin in her mouth as he's carrying on about being a giant LSD toaster. And then she spits this pushpin out and pins the fly and kills it.
An incredibly plastic fly. It should
the
be
most
noted.
rubber fly I've ever seen in my fucking life. And he's like, that fly was given to me by my friend Amanda, who overdosed at that Doobie Brothers concert and died. And you've just shoved a pushpin through it? That's not true. I made that up. And I love how he just kind of stops. He goes, then I started freaking out. He just completely gets derailed, and it's very funny. But it is also quite funny as someone who has been in meetings like that with authoritarian figures like teachers. That is kind of how they talk to you.
Oh yeah.
In the way that, like, not that comedic, but they do try and relate to you in a way where they're like, okay, well, we've noticed that you've had some difficulties doing X, Y, Z. You're not in any trouble. We just want to talk to you. And then they kind of decide what's wrong with you and then try and convince you that that's what that is.
This is a it's a trope for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking as someone who has had more meetings like that with teachers than I can count, yeah, that's... begrudgingly, I gotta give it to him. It's pretty accurate. Then you see Pike at his mechanic job, bitching out his boss because he's claiming that his boss said he could have a part for his van by noon, and it's almost dark, and he's angry because he's leaving the hills, and he wanted to get out before the sunset because he obviously has a big suspicion that vampires are fucking running around. And only him and, like, Buffy and Merrick seem to get that.
Yeah, like his co-worker's like, oh, what should I do if I see Benny, not Skull, Benny? And he just responds, run.
And he's like, okay. And he drives out.
Yeah, he drives out in his beat-up van. His
busted-ass van, which reminds me of Bruce Van Bull. Rest in peace. Which was our band van for a while. It was very beautiful. We miss him. And then you see Buffy walking around in a soundstage that's made to look like a cut-off alley or something like that.
I didn't notice it looked soundstage. It looked like an alley to me.
It looked really fake to me.
Okay.
But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you'll see the error of your ways. Who knows? And she's kind of just wandering around like, oh yeah, and she starts singing.
She's literally going, oh, woe is me, I feel so helpless and alone, woo, 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 and then starts singing a song about being helpless.
Yeah, and she has cramps, and then a vampire jumps down. She's like, vamps cause cramps. That's the way it goes. Yep. And she takes him down. And then Merrick steps out and just clicks a stopwatch, making her jump. But it's also so well done. And then she says something like, the subtitle said, she said, Toaster kicked him? But it sounds to me like she says, Toaster caked him. And I'm like, is that a reference to the conversation she had with Principal Boyle? I don't know what 90s invocation is this?
I think whatever line that was, I zoned out for like 3 seconds and did not hear any of that. So I have no recollection of this whatsoever.
Okay, fine. But she kills the vampire, and then they go back to Merrick's house, and he's chastising her the whole time, being like, "Dude, it was a blind alley, and she's like, yeah, but I tricked him, and he is just not accepting that, and he just says,
like, if you
"The
go
cardinal rule."
if you go into a blind alley, if it's one vampire, that's fine, but if there's 10 of them, you're screwed.
Yeah,
basically.
he straight up says the cardinal rule is one vampire is more easy to kill than 10. To which she says a line that got me severely disciplined, shall I say, which is, does the word duh mean anything to you? Which is the most 90s fucking thing you could have put in any movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. And he just says, well, have you noticed the cramps you get? And she's like, wow, yeah, okay, great conversationalist. I had cramps, but I'm not due for a couple of weeks since you're so hot on the subject. Because, you know...
That is pretty much verbatim the line, yes.
Yes, I know. That's just a line that stuck in my head since I was a kid, so, you know. And he claims, no, they're not... That's like an early warning system, your natural reaction to the unnaturalness of a vampire. To which she just laughs and goes, great, my secret weapon is PMS. Thank you for telling me. And then they have like a cuppa, and just kind of have a nice little kind of chat.
Yeah, there's a little kind of a bonding thing here, which I kind of like to actually see them sort of interacting on a little bit more of an equal basis. And also you find out...
She brings him a cup of tea. And I'm like, that's actually very sweet.
You also find out that the reason why Merrick looks the same when you've seen like the previous version of him is because he has been reincarnated hundreds of times to train slayers.
Like, that's his one thing. And he straight up says it because, well, we don't have any reason to doubt him. That he is reborn every time with the knowledge that he requires to train the next Slayer. And he's responsible for finding her, training her, and basically that's his life, and that's been his life every life.
Yeah.
And Buffy's kind of horrified, like rightfully horrified. She's like, wow, like, what do you do then when all the vampires are dead? And he goes, oh, well, maybe I'll go to heaven. And she just says, well, maybe you'll get a job. And he says... oh, a job. I would have made a wonderful bootmaker. And you can't help but really feel bad for the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you kind of see that he's also been fucked over by this stupid-ass prophecy shit as well. Not as much as all these other girls that died horribly to Lothos, but, you know.
No one's getting out of this good. So.
No. And she talks about, he talks about how that's his job, and she says, well, what do you do? I'm out there, like, getting, like, 10 pints of fucking shit knocked out of me, and you just sit there and watch, and he does object to this, and he's basically just tells her straight, no, I am not allowed to interfere, no matter how much I want to, no matter how much I think that this time the girl is truly exceptional. And that's a really sweet kind of, like, moment.
Yeah.
And Buffy's like, well... I can see why. I do have something that the other girls didn't have. My keen fashion sense. Which he replies with, oh no, vampires of the world, beware. And they have like a cute moment of like, haha, see, Merrick, you made a joke. Do you want to sit down? Do you want to have a lie down? You did good. It was a good joke. And it's a nice little bonding kind of thing. And I like it. Then we cut back to Pike, and his van is broken down because he didn't get that part.
No, I
remember,
didn't get the part.
Keen-eared and brained listeners, viewers will remember he didn't get that part. So now his van won't start, and he readjusts his rearview mirror, and he doesn't see anything in there, but he looks behind him, and there's two extras dressed as vampires.
Yes.
And then he looks in the front, and it's Pee Wee Herman. And he's like, oh no, it's Pee Wee Herman, but he's a vampire.
I best run these guys down.
So his van magically starts working, so he like ba-bumps like the two guys behind him, and then Pee Wee Herman jumps on his van, and they have a very silly drive through the woods.
Yeah, there's like an extended sequence where just Pee Wee Herman is just hanging off this van until
just going
until he eventually
Paragon.
like punches through the roof of it, reaching his arm down. And then they hit, and then they pass too close to a tree, and
A low-hanging branch, and he gets smacked
a
off.
low-hanging branch just twats into Pee Wee Herman, lancing him, like, his arm away from him, so his arm just lands next to
He
Pike.
lands in the lap of Pike, and he freaks out, and that causes him to crash. And you see him crash into a tree, and his guitar, his acoustic guitar, flies out the windshield.
Although there is one, I think my favourite line in it, which I have actually got to be the little intro
I think I wrote
stinger,
that down too.
which is Pee-wee looks down at his, like, severed arm with his, like, minions next to him. He's like, "You ruined my new jacket. Kill him a lot."
It's like, kill him a lot. And they advance on him, and it's very funny.
This is where I realised something, because, you know, he has a bit of a Pike / Bulk, whatever I'm fucking calling him.
Luke Perry.
Has a bit of a fight with the vampires, and I realised he's like the sarcastic, dark-haired guy who does throw down with the vampires. He's a proto-Xander.
Kind of, but he's nowhere near as a creepy
Yeah.
as Nicholas Brendan.
Well, yeah.
But no, kind of, like, the thing is, you can see a lot of the prototypes for characters that would become Buffy characters for the TV series.
Yeah.
So, you know, like Pike, Spike, you know, that kind of thing. They have a similar kind of look.
Some of it's not clever.
Ooh,
Yeah,
clever,
some of it's
clever.
not. Yep. Although I do think there was a thing that it took me so long to figure out, but Spike in the TV series is basically Billy Idol.
Yes.
His real name, because obviously Spike is just a silly name he has. His real name was William,
Yes.
and that is not a coincidence.
No.
And I like that. I like that a lot. Also, one of the best English accents, because he's an American man putting on an English accent, and that's incredible.
He has got the stamp of being one of the very few Americans I have heard who can convincingly do a British accent.
Yeah, phenomenal, hands down. Nice one, James Masters. So Buffy just shows up while he's having a fist fight with these vampires, and humbles him because obviously she's the Slayer, so she's good at that stuff. She kicks open. She stakes one. She kicks open the guitar and then smashes the guitar over a vampire, and then stakes one of them with the fretboard, which is so cool. I mean, I hate to see the destruction of guitars. Like, that upsets me because they are wonderful. But also, that was really cool.
And then Xander just faints.
It's not Xander, it's Pike.
Sorry, Pike. I had my notes were there because I was talking about the Xander thing, so yeah.
So, and Merrick makes a joke, because he's, like, looking at Merrick going, "Oh, yeah, you're there, okay, oh, yes," and just passes out. Because he just does that, apparently.
Yeah.
And Merrick comments on this going, and Buffy's like, "Oh, do you know this guy?" And he just replies with, "Yes, he's an odd man who tends to pass out whenever I'm nearby." And it cuts to Buffy letting Pike into her house and icing her elbow. And confirming, basically, because Pike asks, like, "Those were vampires?" And I love her kind of, yeah. And he's like, "Fuck, I knew it." Oh well. And there's obviously tension there because they're the main characters. So
Yeah, there's a bit of flirting going on.
There's a vibe there, and she goes to bed. And he does this thing where he's following her, and he says, "I'm sorry, but, like, who are you? You, like, seem like such a flake, but oops, I've seen you kill people, And, yeah, basically going, "Oh, but you're a girl who likes to have her hair and nails did. How can you be competent?" Never mind, I've been hanging out with the CEO of misogyny, Benny.
Yeah, he's got some fleas he needs to get rid of.
He's got some fleas he needs to get rid of. And then we cut back to Pee Wee Herman getting chewed out by his husband, who does... Okay, this kind of activated me a little bit, because he sat on, like, a shade long, getting chewed out by Lothos, with his arm missing. And then he puts his foot on his chest.
Lothos puts
his foot on Pee Wee Herman's chest and, like, chews him out, and I'm like, oh... I've written it down like, such daddy behavior. And then he's complaining at him, going, my favorite thing, and this is why I think they're in a relationship, because he turns around and goes, "I can't even believe you survived the Crusades." It's such a bitch. It was so funny, that line. And he's complaining because he's behaving like a child.
Then one of my other favourite little, like, terrible, like, stupid little jokes happens, which is where Lothos then just picks up a cat and is like, yes, just a, like, and it's
I'm going to have a snack.
Yeah, I'm going to have a snack, and then just walks off with a cat, and you're like,
fuck off. He's going to eat pussy to spite his gay husband.
yeah.
Well, okay, that's a cis cat. So, which is really going to piss him off, because that's cis pussy, and he cannot abide cis pussy. Anyway, my father-in-law listens to these. Hi, Kev. Then you see at school, Buffy and her friends are walking down, but Buffy's trailing along behind them in the back. A little bit of mise-en-scène. That is not what that is. And they're talking about how Cassandra's body was found in the wood, and she'd been dead there for a good while. And she was wearing the yellow jacket. Yellow jacket mentioned. Jacket has been mentioned. And now it's all corpseified and gross, and they're more upset about the jacket than a person in their friend group dying. Because they do be vapid. And as they're walking out, Andy, I wouldn't say he's the CEO of misogyny, but he's damn close. Benny's going to promote him.
He's like a regional director.
He's like a regional director of misogyny. Is walking past, and he's like, ooh, got to get me some, and then grabs Buffy's ass, and she just judo flips him and pins him against the locker, which
Best
I was
part
like,
of the film. So good.
I literally wrote, Buffy underreacts to her boyfriend's mate grabbing her ass.
Yeah.
Because, and obviously Jeffrey is a jock and doesn't care, so he's angry for touching for his friend touching his, quote, thang. His quote "thang" is what he said.
We don't like Jeffrey.
We don't like Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
And I thought Jeffrey is a weak baby man who doesn't appreciate the magnificent Amazon before him and is emasculated, which is quite. It's quite soy, honestly. Quite. I'm just using words.
Yeah.
And it's very funny how Andy freaks out and is like, I'm sorry, I see that I have made an error in my deeds, and I apologize. And she's like, just don't touch me like that. And which is honestly a pretty reasonable response. Yeah. And then she goes to practice. Merrick, she's getting her stuff around Merrick's house, and he's chewing on his hanky. I like the way they made that like a prop for him to mess with.
I think that might have just been Donald Sutherland.
I absolutely
I'm pretty
think
sure
it was. Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. And he's very upset about her going to practice because
Well, it's not even practice.
No, she wants to go to practice because the big game is tomorrow and she needs to catch up. So she goes to the game.
Yeah, but we don't even really see any of the practice.
We don't see the practice. We just see them at the game the next day.
I think the passage of time gets a bit confused.
It does a bit. I mean, the editing in this is a bit. It's not fantastic.
The movie's not fantastic. Not well put together.
That's okay. So you see Merrick getting very angry, and he's like, "This isn't good. We shouldn't be doing this." And she's still striving for some semblance of normalcy, going back to her old life for some comfort. But obviously, that knowing what she knows now and being who she is, she can't really do that. So she's struggling fruitlessly against the pull of fate, which I get it. Then, the 40-year-old man, Gruler, who was killed by a vampire, well, it was insinuated he was
killed by a vampire.
He was killed by Paul Rubin.
Like 50 minutes ago in the movie.
Yeah. He shows up, but he's obviously a vampire, and starts vamping all over the court.
Yeah, he gets pulled up to actually play, because he's on the basketball team.
Because he sits down and the coach goes, "You've been missing practices. Now, why don't you sit there and think about how that might make me feel?" Because he's touchy-feely, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gets out on the court and he's just intimidating everyone because they're like, "That's a literal fucking vampire."
Yeah, he's basically using his vampire skills.
He's like hissing and growling at people to just keep ball control.
One of the people,
because he opposite team gets the ball and it's a baby Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
it's a baby Ben Affleck, and he's like just getting hissed at by this guy, and he just hands him the ball and goes, "Just take it, dude."
Because I saw that and I was like, "Wait, the fuck is that Ben Affleck?" And then I checked later, it's like, "Oh yeah, it is actually Ben Affleck." I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. Buffy, because Merrick showed up to watch the game because he knows it's important to Buffy, showing that father figure, he's cool. And they're watching Gruler, obviously, like, he scores a basket and by flying, and then just slowly lowers himself to the ground, and everyone's like, wow, the Beverly Hills really do know how to teach people how to play basketball.
Look, all I'm going to say is that I think in this particular region of Beverly Hills, there is a lot of lead paint.
And seeing teenagers floating is just one of those things.
That this is not a populace that is, particularly on board. There's something in the water, like, I don't know, there's like a local like whiskey distillery is like filtering stuff into the water, so everyone's just buzzed a little all the time.
Maybe.
It's the only explanation.
Yeah. While he's like swinging his vampire dick around and scaring people, some dude just steals the ball, which angers him to the point of he's just gonna chase him down and probably kill him. And Buffy leg sweeps him and chases him out of the court. And Merrick tries to stop her, and she just looks at it and goes, "He knows who I am!" Which is like true, but I think maybe there's something about resetting when you become a vampire and I don't know. Like, I'm wondering, like, suddenly he doesn't know who she is or something, because then he would know that she's the Slayer, and only by her chasing him down would he know that she's the Slayer.
I'm gonna be honest.
I don't really
the
get
whole
it.
thing about her name doesn't really make sense and doesn't really do anything in the movie. Again, there's like bits of this movie that just are like
that are a bit underbaked or just don't really go anywhere.
You could, I mean, I don't know how much of it is the product of rewrites of things, but there's quite a lot that could be excised and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. So yeah, she runs out and there's like a biker gang outside. For some reason, just a biker gang who are like, oh, it must be halftime. It's like, are they waiting? What are they doing there? Do they like high school basketball?
I don't think it's supposed to be right outside the school. I think this is like a moment-to-moment editing issue.
Okay, maybe.
I think this is not literally outside the school. This is like a block away or something. Yeah.
So she's chasing Gruler, and obviously one of these grown-ass men decides to just chat up a 17-year-old girl, which, speaking as someone who has been a 17-year-old girl, the older you get, the less older men will actually, like, hit on you. You get that kind of comment when you're 10 years old, actually, more often. Just sad fact of life there for the person who wrote this story. And because he's a biker, he's like, hey, babe, want to get some real power between your legs? And she's like, yep, and kicks him the fuck off his bike and steals it. To which all the rest of the biker gang are laughing at him.
And he just
got humbled by a 17-year-old girl, and he calls her a slur.
Yeah.
For a lesbian. He just shouts like, you're a slur, I'll tell the world. It's like, hey everyone, this 17-year-old girl humbled me, so I called her a slur.
Cool.
Okay, telling on yourself a bit. So she chases him. And then Pike just happens to be, just so coincidentally manages to be talking to a dude who has a dirt bike. For some reason.
Yeah, this is just a thing that happens.
And so he gets on the dirt bike, and you can immediately tell the difference between the engines, because dirt bikes sound terrible. And, like, the big, like, hogs sound gorgeous. But, whatever. And they go to, like, a float storage area.
Yeah, it's like
which is so weird.
It's a parade float storage ground, and
it's open, and they go there.
I intellectually understand that if parade floats are a thing that exists, then at some point in the year you are going to require a storage area for them.
Open air storage. I know it's Beverly Hills, but at the same time, it does rain.
It's just a deeply surreal, like, location.
It
you
really
know?
is. And then she's looking for Gruler. And I've never understood this. It kind of has like a dolly zoom on from a low angle at a moving squirrel float that's making a weird humming noise. And then she just falls over. And I don't know whether it was implied that Gruler hit her with that.
I think it's the impression that he, like, pushed it out. But again, it
moves so slowly, and I'm like, okay, well, she just ends up on the floor. And
like,
then,
there's a lot of little bits in this movie where there's, like, some weird choices in the editing that make things a little less comprehensible than they should be.
Yeah, very much so. And she tries to plead to him, and she's like, remember when, like, it's me, Buffy. I'm the gonna kill you. Do you remember when you drank all the blueberry schnapps and threw up on my mother? And then she gets grabbed by two vampires, who the woman on her left, our right, is just so stoked to be a vampire in a movie. Because when Buffy breaks out, she sorts out the guy on her left first, and the woman on the right just has her hands kind of like, in claws, just kind of making herself look big and hissing, waiting for her turn to get staked. And it's like, oh.
Because, this is where, like, Pike shows up and stakes Grueller.
No, Buffy kicks him into Pike's stake. Yeah,
kicks him into Pike's stake. And then, like, because Buffy stakes one of the vampires, and then, like, the other one is shown to, like, is, as far as we are to understand in the narrative, also dies. But all that actually happens
she
is
gets shoved.
Buffy, like, is launched at them crotch first and sort of, like, slams into their head with her crotch, and that kills the vampire, which suggests an undocumented Slayer power.
Pussy Slayer.
Which is probably why they cut that out of the show.
Especially because she's 17.
Yeah, it seems unwise to include that.
Yeah, but then Lothos shows up.
No, there is a thing that's important missed there.
Okay, sorry.
Which is when she uses her Slayer crotch to destroy a vampire.
Oh yeah, then she Anime falls onto Pike.
No, not Anime falls onto Pike. She Joss Whedon falls onto Pike. This is a thing he does all the fucking time.
Cringe.
And this is how you know that they are going to become an item, because that is apparently how Whedon's love language works.
Yeah, you have to physically...
physically fall on someone. If your face falls in their tits, then, that's the peak comedy.
I mean, to be fair, that's how we went out. I fell face first into your fat tits and was like, oh, nice to meet you. And you were like, is it?
A lot of things have been said about my body over the years, but I don't think...
What a weird thing, okay.
I don't think possessing fat tits is something that can ever be labelled.
Okay, I fell into that dump truck of a Nightwing ass you have, and I was like, oh. And you were like, madam.
It's been known to happen.
This is a bank. Yeah. What the fuck were we talking about? Oh yeah, Joss Whedon can't write very well. Then they get up, and Buffy's all like, we need to find Merrick. But they don't find Merrick. They find Lothos and his husband, Pee Wee Herman. I love how he does have an in-character name, but I always just internally he's either Paul Rubens or Pee Wee Herman.
He's never named out loud in the movie, so what are you supposed to call him? You can call him by his real name in the movie, but it's not said out loud, so I find that really hard to internalize.
It's like I did note down. You don't know Buffy's name until she gives it to Pike and Benny at the 13-minute mark. Where she turns around because he's like, what's your name? And she's like, Buffy. You don't hear it said at all before that.
Oh.
It's the first time you hear it. And Lothos is super obsessed with Buffy. And you see that he puts her in like a trance.
He's like vampire hypnosis.
Vampire hypnoses. And it's like, oh no. And like, Pike is trying to, like, break through to her and can't seem to do it. So, like, Pee Wee Herman is just so fed up with watching Pike stumble that he says, oh, yeah, you're going to keep waggling that jaw of yours when I bite it off. And getting into his, like, feelings, because he's really feeling it, Pike just says, oh, yeah, remember what happened when you messed with me last time, Lefty? And he picks him up with one hand and just says, I remember. And yeets him into one of the fucking floats. There's parade floats here. I cannot get over the fact that there are parade floats.
There's a bit here I really like, because, the whole thing between, like, fucking Lothos and Buffy is, like, kind of ill-defined.
It's like they have a weird connection where
there's like a connection.
It's like a bit romantic or something.
And Lothos has this whole like I'm not going. No one's going to stop me. And you see Merrick in the background like raising a stake.
He raises that really fancy ornate dagger you see in the beginning.
Ornate dagger, and I like how as he's doing that, Lothos is like, yes, no one can stop me, not you, Merrick.
And then he starts lowering it immediately, because he's not supposed to interfere.
Yeah.
And Lothos doesn't care and decides to just try and eat her there and then. And Merrick jumps in and tries to stake him with the ornate dagger, to which obviously doesn't go well. Merrick easily turns it back on Lothos easily turns it back on Merrick and stakes him instead. And then
turns out staking kills humans quite well as well.
yeah, who knew, right? And he walks off, and Pee-wee's like, "Babe, we're not eating," and he's just she's not ready, and it's like
Again, I'm not 100% sure of the stakes of.
Well,
like,
you see, you put them in a vampire's heart.
No. Like I know that. Like I can work out that. There needs to be a certain point at which Lothos considers it to be like the time to kill the Slayer. Like I know there's like a thing there, but like the reasoning and the like stakes of doing so just are so like ill-defined that
because Merrick, when he's dying, he does say that the Lothos is like a dance or like a play, and he's talking about this as if it's like. It's ill-defined. Who the fuck knows?
Although he does there say essentially that Buffy not being conventional is like a good actually because she's not playing like Lothos's game.
Well, no, it's kind of a bit heartbreaking because she's holding him as he's dying, and he just says, "You do everything wrong," and she goes, "I'm sorry, I'll take it back," and he goes, "No, it's working. You do it wrong." So do it wrong, because you're making it work, and it's like that's really cool. And he starts saying this whole thing. It's like when the music stops, and then he dies.
It's like all that's left then is, and then he dies.
Then he dies,
in completing a Shakespeare illusion.
Exactly. Then it cuts to them, like Pike and Buffy in Merrick's house, and she's just crying, and he's just watching her cry for a bit. Because, yeah. Then it cuts back to her friends. They're getting ready for the dance. And they're talking smack about Buffy, saying, oh, God, she was so freaky and she just jumped into the court and kicked, like, that 40-year-old man. That was weird. And she comes in and she's obviously upset. Merrick's died. She's all over the place. And she kind of just wants to talk to her friends. And I've written... She needs to talk to her friends, but they're superficial. They're bimbos. Upside down smiley face. So she's trying to be like, oh yeah, so there's this guy, and they're like, oh my god, are you having an affair? Cool. And it's a bunch of silliness. And she gets very frustrated with them. And she just kind of like shouts at them. And Kimberly says, get out of my facial. Because this was written by a man in the 90s. So you see her going out that night, and she's just wandering around, and Pike catches up to her. And he is super, super stoked to kill a bunch of vampires. He can't help but want to do that.
He also has a new bike.
He has a bike for some reason.
He's not riding the dirt bike, he's riding like a more conventional bike, and I don't think it's the one Buffy stole.
No, it's not. It's a third type of bike entirely.
Yeah, so he has gone through 3 modes of transportation in quick succession, despite, as far as every part about his coding as a character suggesting that he does not have disposable income.
No, but she does, because she's going to buy a dress, because she's desperately clinging to the idea of normalcy. So she wants to go to the dance with her friends, and Pike thinks this is awful, and has an angry they have a fight outside of a photo booth who is occupied by someone wearing camo trousers. Don't think about it. And she basically says, look, I'm going to the dance, I'm going to drink punch and be with my friends and not give a shit, because she blames herself for Merrick's death, and she's really upset, and she's upset with herself for not being able to fight back against Lothos, and fuck him. And storms off. And Pike is like, Betty was right. I shouldn't be drinking Respect Women juice. Sigma male for life, ho! And then angrily motorbikes away. And then Betty pops... See, I popped out of the photo booth. And he goes, Buffy? And then, I don't know, just sniffs away. It's really weird the way he leaves. And then there's a cute thing of... The photo booth prints out a bunch of photos with nothing in it. And it's like... You get it, because he can't be photographed, and you can't see them in mirrors. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see like Lothos and his husband bitching, his husband Pee Wee Herman. And Pee Wee Herman's complaining, going, why are we waiting to get the dance? We know that Buffy is the chosen one, and we can kill her right now. And he's like, but I don't want to kill her right now. I want to dance. And Pee Wee is like, okay, fine, and goes to kiss his hand, and then gets a psych boop on the forehead. It's like, these guys are so old, undead, and gay, it kills me. So, there's a montage of Pike at home, carving steaks out of every bit of wood in his house, and then Buffy buying dresses, and then it cuts to the dance.
No. Important factor is that during the mini montage of Pike preparing, he shaves off his soul patch.
Oh, I forgot.
Showing that he is truly ready for battle. Man cannot enter battle.
He's truly attractive.
Yeah.
With a soul patch.
You can't enter battle or
It
be
pissed
considered
me
conventionally attractive with a soul patch.
I remember, because it's kind of played up as a joke, where he's got a cutthroat razor and his entire face is...
Yeah.
And he just nicks the soul patch off, and then he's like, right, I'm done.
Yeah, it's a fun bit.
And I remember as a little girl being like, no, not the soul patch. He's significantly less attractive to me right now. So yeah, we have that montage, and then that happens, and then the dance. It's the night of the dance, and it's the most 90s fucking thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Buffy shows up, and she is very overdressed, and you see her friend is like dressed very kind of like very 80s, like kind of early 90s, very plasticky kind of. Oh, I fucking hate that fashion. It's ugly as hell. And they're just bitching and like tearing everyone down because they do be like that. And Buffy approaches and is like, oh, hi, because she's in like this beautiful flowing white dress that's way too sophisticated for a fucking dance. It looks more like a wedding dress.
It kind of does, yeah.
And I think it's intentional because of the fight with Lothos and stuff like that. And she goes up and she's like, oh, hey, have you seen Jeffrey? The limo didn't arrive. And her friends are looking past her and giggling and not fucking talking to her because they do be like that. So she turns around and sees him and is like, hey, Jeffrey, what the hell? And he was like, I'm here with Jenny. Which is like, wow, what a scummy move with the little yes man. And she's confused and asks him to explain. To which he was like, you knew it was going to happen. I told you all of this. And she replies, no, you didn't. To which he replies, yeah, I did. I called you and you weren't home. So I had to leave a message because you're never home. And she's rightfully outraged because he broke up with her machine the night of the dance and then took one of her friends instead. Which is super shitty. He gets mad, snaps his fingers at Jenny, goes, Jenny, we're leaving. And of course, Jenny follows him because there's another misogyny. I don't know where in the company he is, but he's pretty high up there. So Buffy goes off to the side because the moment she gets dumped, a romantic song comes on. Because the DJ hates women.
But fortunately,
but while she's crying in the corner and with her back to the main doors so she doesn't see, Pike shows up looking like 90% of men I was crushing on as a teen. He's got a leather jacket on. He's got his hair swept back.
You see, that's the thing I wrote. It's like, he's come through. He
got rid of that soul patch, so now he's an unthreatening boy.
Yeah, he slicked his hair back, he's got no soul patch, he's wearing a leather jacket. He is now fully activated as Luke Perry.
Yes!
His Luke Perry powers have activated, and now every teenage girl in 1992 is unable to resist.
Honestly, he's missing the earring, because he had one earring.
Okay, so he's at like 95%
he's at
power.
95% Perry power. Perry power. That's what we're doing. Perry power. So he comes in and does a really annoying thing where he taps her shoulder and then hides. And it's like, okay, so they are 17. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Sure. Well, I think he's probably like 20. Or
Yeah, I
something.
think
he's 35 years old.
I don't think it's ever actually said exactly how old
Well,
he is.
he's-
There may be a problematic age gap here.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah,
this
wouldn't
this
that-
author writing something like that in there. Anyway. And he makes a jump and he gives her a paper flower and he cheers her up. And he's like, "Hey, would I get my ass kicked if I asked you to dance?" And she's like, "Oh, maybe." Flirting back. And I've written, Pike embraces the Amazon. They dance. And then he fully comes out with, "Oh, you know, Buffy, you're not like other girls." Which, cringe if a man says that to you. Staple his foreskin to his eyelids. Just do it. if he has a foreskin.
I feel that's in the same bracket as you're very mature for your age.
It's a massive red flag, not gonna lie. And to which Buffy, without skipping a beat, is like, "That was a misogynistic thing to say. Yes, I am." And then they just don't say anything else because he's realised that hanging around with the CEO of misogyny like he has been has rubbed off on him in an unpleasant way. And then they make out because she's like, "I can change you." And then vampires happen.
Finally, vampires
attack.
Vampires
And-
attack the dance.
Yeah, which honestly, thank fuck, because they get in there and the music immediately gets better.
Yeah, one of the first things that happens is like the DJ is replaced with a vampire DJ who then just puts on like thrash
Actually,
metal.
actually good music. It's like, oh thank God. And there's a really fun thing where when the vampires break in, Buffy instinctively puts her body in front of Pike's, and he kind of notices and is like, "Oh, okay." It's like, good. Then the doors fly open, and there's some of the most... You can tell when someone's dressing in something they're not comfortable with wearing, that they're not used to wearing. None of these people are used to dressing like that, and you can tell. There's a certain discomfort, there's like a dude there with like, he's got a dog collar on and he's shirtless but he's got a leather jacket on, and you can tell the guy's like, "This is horrible." And they're all trying to talk with their fangs in, which is adorable as well.
I think this is one of the bits where just some of the ways things are framed really kind of shows off how cheaply some parts of this movie was made.
And they demand that they send out Buffy or they'll come in. And Buffy's like, "Don't worry, they can't come in unless they're invited." And Kimberly is just like, "I already invited them.
They're all seniors.
They're seniors!" And it's like, you know what? It's not on Kimberly there.
Yeah,
That's not her fault. As much as we do not stand Kimberly here, she doesn't have
In this, she was
Kimberly
faultless.
last name. In this, she was faultless. So Pike is like, "Oh, awesome! I got a bag full of murdering implements in case this would happen. Here, let's go kill them." And Buffy says, "No, I'm going to. You're not. I'm glad one of us brought murder implements." And then she stands up to leave after she gives him a peck on the mouth. And he grabs her dress and conveniently rips it into a very manageable miniskirt. And then takes his jacket off and throws it at her. And it's a look. It's complimentary.
She has now gained the outfit that you will usually see when
well, that was repeated in the end of the first season of the Buffy TV show when
Yeah.
she fought the Master.
Yeah.
I think it was the first season. Where she's in like a white prom dress and she's got a leather jacket on.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
It's a cool look.
Also, like, little callback, because the first time she ever encountered a vampire, she was wearing her boyfriend's leather jacket. And the time she's doing the big fight against
As
the
a
big evil vampire.
varsity
It's like a
jacket
varsity,
thing,
like
yeah.
a letter jacket, that's what I said.
Oh, sorry, I thought
Yeah.
you said leather.
No. And now she's wearing Pike's jacket, insinuating that she needs to have at least the input of a male to do anything.
She can only fight
That is
vampire-
not a serious reading. I am being facetious.
She wears boyfriend jacket to kill vampires. It's just a thing.
She
okay?
has to. She has to have a bit of a man there, otherwise she's incomplete. And I did put jacket mention? No, not that kind of jacket mention. I'm sorry. But, so they go out. Buffy goes out, and they're all like lined up near the door, like she's won an award or something. And they wait for the camera to do a very like early 90s zoom in. And then she does some flips. And you see Cassandra with the yellow jacket there. But she's got her hair back combed, so you know she's a vampire now. It's very sexy. But yeah, that's the last time Yellow Jacket mentioned.
Okay.
And then they have a fight, which is, I put down, the most Power Ranger turn-based fight.
Yeah, it's very, very Power Rangers fight choreography.
There's a woman in like a PVC bodysuit who just kind of stands there looking awkward, like, I can't get her now. Oh, no. That's bad. And she jumps the fence and runs away. And just runs across Jenny and Jeffrey fucking in his car. To which Buffy, she may be a feminist, but she's not going to slut shame her fucking ex-friend or ex-boyfriend. Because she stops, looks at them and goes, that was quick, and then keeps running. Which is like, well, that wasn't necessary, but sure. So she's running. She runs, I don't know, another part of the school, I guess. Again, the editing's a bit strange. And fucking Pee Wee Herman jumps through the window and kicks her to the floor. And she's having cramps because vampires are nearby. Vamps cause cramps. And he kicks her and is like, hi! How are you? Kicks her again. I love the chemistry. I could watch Pee Wee Herman do this all day. And she says, I'm fine, but you're obviously having a bad hair day. And he's like, oh, funny! And kicks her in the guts again, which is funny. She manages to get up and runs. The first 2 doors are locked. And he's just walking behind, like Terminator walking behind her, because he's quite happy. He knows he's going to catch up to her. And she runs through the third door, and he goes, oh, she could go behind, what's the door number 3? Which, again, haha, that's fun. And then it cuts back to the, because it frequently cuts back to the interior of the dance where vampires are trying to get in, or they have gotten in at this point. And they're just causing a ruckus.
Yeah, like people are trying to fight them, but they're fending them off very badly.
Yeah, and vampires are just fucking around, just being idiots. And Benny properly goes in at Pike, and I've written down, oh my god, Vamp Benny is kind of hot with the hair and his, like, silver tooth. I'm like, oh no. And they have a bit of a kerfuffle. And he grabs Pike and he's like, so I'm still the CEO of misogyny. Look at all these sheeple. Oh, now, if they were like me and ate brain force every day, then they'd be alpha males like I am. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what Benny says.
I think you may be stretching the limits of paraphrasing.
No. So we cut back to Buffy and Pee-wee fighting. And Pee-wee's doing pretty well until he isn't. And he's taunting her, and he turns around, and I wrote this down. We're immortal, Buffy. We can do anything. And she pushes him against the wall with a stake raised above her hand. He goes, oh yeah? Clap.
Bit ableist there,
Bit
Buffy.
ableist, Buffy. Bit fucking ableist there, love. I mean, it'll grow back. He's a vampire, but fucking hell. Fucking hell, love. Bit much. And then we proceed to the best moment ever captured in cinema history.
Yes.
We look over, because they're in an old, like, instrument room. And
Is that where it is?
Yeah, there's, like, old dusty drums and, like, horn instruments there, you can see.
I apparently did not know. I thought they were in, like, just a basement somewhere.
I think that's why he has a metronome playing. Which he's not keeping in time with, so whatever. But you could say that that's also kind of like the underlying reference to that being used in hypnosis as well.
Yeah.
But I think I'm giving air and graces, but whatever. And he looks over as Lothos is playing the violin, and he smiles really happily. Pee-wee's like, oh, he's going to save me. And Lothos just shakes his head, realizing, and then Pee-wee realizes his husband's going to let him die. And then he gets staked. And he grips the stake, and in a dramatic moment, he growls at her, you're gonna wish you'd died, and slides down. And then stands up again. with and massively, slapstickly overplays the pain he's in. while he's being staked. Which
I don't think he overdoes the pain. I think he's underdoing it. He's, he's treating it like he stubbed his toe. He's like, he kicks the wall a few times.
We'll play a bit of the audio if we can remember.
No, we will not.
Maybe we will.
We won't.
Watch the movie. That part's really funny.
Yeah, it's genuinely
honestly
the best death scene.
Funniest fucking thing I have ever seen.
Yeah, I just assumed he was going to do the whole do that and then stop and pull the stake out, and for some reason he's immune to stakes or something.
No.
That's what we were watching it the whole time, being like, oh well, he's obviously not actually dying. He's just comedically over egging it.
No, it's
take
just
the piss out of Buffy. But no, he's just comedically over. Yeah.
It's just Paul Rubens ad-libbing on set.
Yeah, that was an ad-lib. He just did that, and they loved it so much they kept it in.
And it's the best bit of the movie.
It's literally the best part. Because then he's like, ah, and then collapses. And then the scene carries on as normal. They didn't just see the best fucking thing that's ever been captured on camera. And then we cut back to Pike and Benny fighting. And he just holy waters him with the flask that he usually has liquor in. And
where did you get holy water from?
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, it's America. There's probably way more churches around there.
I mean, true. But I think you might get some questions if you just went into one and go, hey, can I just have some of your holy water?
Well, they tend to be in fountains that you can just go near. They're not guarded. They do.
I guess they are. I mean, I know the ones...
They tend to kind of just be there.
The ones I've been to, tend to be at the back of the hall. So I guess you could just go in.
You could do that. I mean, you might get a couple of funny looks, but I don't think they'd really stop you, provided that you weren't putting anything in there weird.
Possibly. I'm now thinking of how...
It's just a weird thing to happen. If you see someone
I am now thinking about the difficulties or lack thereof of...
I mean, to be fair, he could have just filled his flask with water, because holy water is literally just a priest has blessed it.
So you're suggesting maybe he very quickly...
He went into a confession booth and went, dude, could you I mean, he's in fucking Beverly Hills. He probably slipped the fucking dude a 50 and got him to, bless it.
No, for a couple of years ago, for a joke, he decided to get himself ordained online.
Yeah.
It's not really come up, but, he's like, oh, shit, I can probably bless this. And then, it turns out...
Yeah. Maybe. We just don't know. Yeah. So Lothos is, doing his creepy...
No, there is... Because, when he gets the holy water splash in his face, and then they kind of have a scuffle, and then he pushes him into...
That's it's out of sequence.
Oh, is
it's
it?
cut very quickly.
Oh, okay.
So you see him because he goes, oh, things change, Ben. He goes, oh, what's up with that Pike? Then it cuts straight to Lothos trancing Buffy.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And he's doing the whole thing of oh, look into my eyes, trance, blah 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 blah. And you can see he's going to kill Buffy. He's going to drink her blood, and she's going to die. And then it cuts back to Pike and Benny scuffling, where Pike uses the advantage and shoves him into an electrical box, stopping the music. And then it cuts back to, Buffy and Lothos. And Buffy's like, wait a minute. When the music stops, the rest is silence. That's what he was going to say. And Lothos is like, maybe get entranced again, please. And she's not buying it. She's not getting tricked by him anymore. And she gets fully sassy with him, and he's like, look at me, we're joined. And she's like, joined? Please. And they fight, and he's very upset, and she manages to get away in the scuffle. And he's like, you're just like the other girls. And then she's like, maybe I'll surprise you, because Buffy is still kind of a feminist, but she also knows that she's better than regular women. Because she was written by a man.
No.
And she holds a cross out, and he goes, oh, really? Does this one make you different? Your puny faith? Please! Which I think is really powerful, and is a testament to Rutger Hauer's acting, that he managed to do the big kind of overpronounced please with those teeth.
Yeah.
That is impressive. Wow.
Master of his craft.
Absolutely. And he sets fire to the cross in her hand.
Well, yeah, he grabs hold of it, and rather than him being set on fire by the cross...
The cross sets on fire. And he goes, No, my keen fashion sense, and then pops a miniature bottle of hairspray and flamethrowers the prick in the face, and uses this to run away. And I always thought the effect for this looked stupid.
Yes.
Because it's just like they've overlaid on the image of him just standing there going, ooh, that's a bit spicy. Fire. And it just looks so silly and weird.
I mean, be careful, because what you're doing here is insulting the entire special effects budget of this film.
Okay, fair. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that all the money went into this one scene.
This is why the vampires couldn't turn to dust when they were staked.
Because that one fire scene.
Thinking on it, actually, nearly everything has been a special effect. This is actually one of the very few visual effects in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, nerd.
Wow. So Buffy uses this to run off, and then it cuts to the dance hall where all the vampires have just been staked and they're dead. And Principal
kind of just...
Boyle is just giving them detention slips.
Detentions, yeah.
He's like, detention to all of these teenagers with stakes sticking out
dead.
of their chest,
like
who are
teenagers.
dead. Just like he literally in the post-credit scene, he's talking about them being dead.
Are we supposed to understand that like Pike killed them all?
I think so.
Because otherwise, the rest of the
you do see. I think it's
because otherwise, then the rest of the
Tiffany. I can't remember. One of Buffy's friend group just kind of go, just like, ew, like really gently stake somebody.
Yeah, like in the neck.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's
like, was it the kids that finished off all the vampires? Because if they did, then why do we even need a Slayer?
Why is it just what? Okay, and the parents did nothing, and you're telling me there's no chaperones there at all? There's just the principal. And this is what I find hard to believe.
There was a bunch of 35-year-olds, but they were playing teenagers.
They were just like they were just pretending to be teenagers because it was a kink thing. I don't fucking know. And Buffy comes back in, and Kimberly has a panic attack and gets like bonked in the head by Principal Boyle.
Yeah, he does assault a student.
He assaults a student. Yeah. And she comes back and she's looking a bit rough, and honestly, I dig it. She looks great. And then I've written, Lothos has entered the chat because he kicks the wall in with a fucking katana.
Yeah, I my notes say that...
And tries to speak badly.
Yeah, my notes say Lothos bursts through the wall and unleashes a katana, proving he's worse than a vampire. He's a weeb.
Yeah. And then he says, I'll say it not. I'll have you beg, split open like rotted fruit, all of you. But you can see how hard he is fighting to keep those teeth in his mouth when he says split open like rotted fruit.
Yeah, that's a real harsh set of vowels.
And that's the take they went with. I want to see the other takes where those teeth fly the fuck out of his head.
I am reminded of when I went to see the Mighty Boosh live years and years and years ago. And it was on one of the really early dates of the tour, and I can't remember the name of the character, but when one of them plays like the guitarist who's got the door in his forehead.
Is that the guy with the big false teeth?
Yeah, and he's got big false teeth, and he's got the false teeth in for playing that character.
And he can't put fixative in, any kind of fixative in there because he needs to costume change.
Yeah, because they're constantly changing which characters they're playing, and he had some fake teeth in, but then he's talking, and then they literally fly out of his mouth at one point, and he has to catch them and then put them straight back in.
Good reflexes.
Whilst everyone is trying not to corpse. Yeah,
that's pretty dope.
It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun.
But anyway, so Principal Boyle is like, that's definitely not a student, and we can tell why he's the principal, folks. Observational skills like that. He has a moment, Lothos has a moment with Buffy, and is like, oh, you're my destiny, I could never hurt you. And I thought it was quite a nice little touch that, because he puts the sword next to her throat and his hand on the other side of her head. But he is pushing her head against the blunt end of the sword.
Yeah, I noticed.
I picked up on this.
Yeah, how much? That is such a clever little bit, because he doesn't want to just cut her head off. He wants to kill her with his mouth.
Yep.
He wants to kill her like he killed that sentence about rotting fruit a couple of months ago. That's what he wants. And I thought that was very clever. And absolutely Rutger Hauer doing that himself. So she does backflips because she wants to stake him, but she doesn't have a stake nearby. And there's a California flag barricading the door.
Yeah, the California Republic flag or
so
whatever.
she backflips towards it and is like, I'm gonna fucking stake you with a flag. She doesn't, but that's fine. So they have like a bit of they have a weak-ass fight. The fight choreography in this is not good at all. It's terrible. It's shot very poorly.
It's full-on Power Rangers level.
It's not great. And, like, Pike jumps on his back to kind of distract him. And he gets yeeted into, like, a table, and he gets humbled pretty hard. And then he's like, he keeps calling her a bitch during this. And I'm like, Lothos doesn't drink the respect women blood.
Yeah, he ran out.
He ran out. Because he hates women, I guess. And just as he's, like, rearing up to, like, cut her up, she stakes him, and he goes, okay, now I'm really pissed off. And then she, like, does a spin kick and kicks it into his chest cavity even harder. And his last words are, oops. He falls over, and then, being the dramatic bitch he is, as he has the death rattle exhale, he brings up his cloak and covers his face. He's like, ugh. And I'm like, okay, that's
dramatic to the end.
Dramatic bitch. I love it. And Buffy goes over, having defeated Lothos, sits on Pike's legs and is like, hey, you okay? And he's very worse for wear. He's been up all night fighting vampires, getting his ass kicked. And then he's got Lothos just like breaking the bat with him, basically. And he's like, no, I can't feel my legs. And she's like, well, why not? And he's like, because you're sitting on them, which I think is quite cute. That's quite fun.
I do want to call out Buffy, though, here, because she does something really fucked up.
What?
So, they're looking around, and Pike's like, oh, did we do this?
No, he goes, did I do that?
Or did I do that? And yes, you did.
No, he didn't.
Because, like, most of the vampires there, as far as we're led to believe, he's the one that dealt with that
killed,
problem.
Yeah.
And Buffy's like, no. And he's like,
goes,
oh, did you do that? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, no, you fucking didn't, Buffy. You killed one vampire in this room.
Yeah, the biggest one.
The biggest,
meanest one with the worst teeth.
But the whole thing? No, you didn't. You are. I can't believe Buffy Summers steals valor.
Wow. Okay. But yeah. And then 90s music plays, and they get on Pike's bike as the sun rises and drive off to, I don't know, go like have a little bit of the over the sweater action or something. I don't fucking know. Whatever teenagers do. But then we have the credits. Okay, so after like a bit of the credits, which for some reason, and this is meaningless, but it points out the first thing you see is Candy Clark as Buffy's mom.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's a massive gap, and then it's starring. And I'm like, why
And then
is
it has the
Buffy's
main
mom?
cast.
And then it has the main cast. I'm like, why is that
Yeah,
so
I forgot
important?
to check why that's the case, but it just is the case.
It was weird. But then after a couple of seconds of black screen, you get a news report of the credits roll. Wait, it starts off with Andy being like, they were driven.
Oh, no, I
were...
got the complete quote here.
Oh, please, yes.
He's like, they had fangs, they were biting people, they had this look in their eyes, totally cold, like an animal. I think they were young Republicans.
Which is the funniest fucking thing.
Yeah.
You see a bunch of them like interviewed about the ordeal, and then after all that black screen, and then it cuts back to Pee Wee Herman getting back up. Clunk, and then he's actually dead. Which, the gleeful laughter that came out of me, I cannot understate how much fun that was.
Yeah.
Just that scene. And that is the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
Excellent.
What do we think, gentlemen?
Well,
we need to talk about the trivia and the facts first.
I've got my few little bits of trivia because
Swibble it.
This is just apparently what I do now.
Yeah, it checks out.
So, now obviously we've made a lot of fun of Joss Whedon and his writing.
It's easy to,
but
and fun.
But the thing is, obviously this was like so very early on in his career, all the I made fun of the person falling onto the other person, which is a trope in his writing. But at this point, it wasn't because we hadn't seen it.
If I can just say, it's like a lot of especially because at the time you didn't really get media like this, where because it might not seem a lot to people now, considering the representation and stuff like that. We still have a very long way to go. Don't get me wrong, but I will say at the time, that kind of movie or something like that was so important to me as a young girl.
Yeah.
And even if it's not perfect and it's written by a fucking idiot, this movie was still very important to me.
Yeah. So obviously this was very, very early in his career, and the thing is, he actually was really unhappy with this movie and left the set. He refused to be on set because
that must have made the actors so much happier.
They made so many changes to his script, and that probably did make the actors happier because if you don't know, Joss Whedon is famously really abusive on set, especially to women.
Yeah.
So he left the set. There is actually a comic, I think it's called The Origins or something like that is basically his version of what he wanted it to be, which is a bit more serious, and I think is more in line with the TV show continuity. He really did not get on well with Donald Sutherland, who's really publicly called him a dick.
How could you not get on with Donald Sutherland? I mean, I don't know much about his
for one simple
politics.
reason, which is that Donald Sutherland did not pay attention to his script and would just ad-lib all the time.
Yeah, but Merrick, that is one of the best performances in this fucking movie.
He said, Whedon has said that, that makes the parts of the movie incomprehensible because of things that Merrick says. I don't think it's that bad. So. But there's the movie's incomprehensible in other areas.
Yeah.
But yes, the things that are bad about it, I'm not going to put all on the face of Whedon as much as I want to. But this was a bit of studio interference.
Yeah.
Which, might explain why the movie critically fared really badly, but it was a commercial success. And of course, it led to the TV show, which we
That was another big formative thing in my life, and a lot of other young people, especially young queer people.
And Whedon had a lot of more control of that, which is why it's darker and grander and all that. And a lot of things were changed. Things like Buffy's parents
completely different. Her dad's a deadbeat, but her mum's actually really dope.
Yeah, she's younger as well. She's a freshman.
She's 14, 15
in the first
series,
rather than being a senior. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a fair amount of changes, and it led to a series that means a lot to a lot of people, even if a lot of slightly shitty things happened on set. As mentioned before, Paul Rubens' appearance is based on his mugshot.
It's pretty dope.
And he cameos in What We Do in the Shadows in that guise, which is very fun. And Amelin is the character's name, which I think you mentioned earlier. Yeah. So I wanted to just kind of briefly touch upon the thing that does kind of make the movie slightly difficult to watch if you know about this. Now, I know I enjoyed the movie just fine, but after this movie, Christy Swanson lost her mind. The woman who played
Buffy, yeah, she went crazy.
She is right now in 2024 a huge Donald Trump fan. She is her entire Twitter timeline is just. If you have Shinigami eyes on your browser, you are going to be blinded by all the red from every single person she retweets. She is on the level of retweeting, talking to, and liking Cat Turd 2 tweets.
If you don't know, be glad.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you go through it and you go, I don't know what is in someone's heart. But what I can tell is that she is vocally in favour of people who are fascists being in control. So that does sour the movie a little bit when you're watching it and you know that. Mm-hmm. She's also a longtime friend of Dean Cain, which is her greatest sin.
Which is such a cell phone. Not even Dean Cain wants to be friends with Dean Cain. Sorry.
Oh man, I hate Dean Cain so much.
I hate Dean Cain.
But yeah.
I also, a nice little tidbit in this movie to kind of a bit of cleanser. The on-set dresser's name was Rocky Slaymaker.
That is an amazing name.
I was just like, oh my god, Rocky Slaymaker, yes!
Oh shit! Just another thing. As a connection to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series, there is like a 3-second clip in there where Seth Green, who plays a werewolf called Oz, in the series, he's a vampire. You see him for like 3 seconds.
I did know.
I saw that he was in, and I was looking out for him, but I didn't spot him.
Yeah,
he's very quick.
It's like he did apparently, if I remember correctly, he did have like a scene where you got to see him a bit more completely, but it got cut.
Yeah.
But he is still in there for a couple of seconds. So
but yes, okay, gentlemen, who wants to talk about how they felt about this movie? Drummer Matt, we haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, I tried to. I ignored all of those various. I mean, I didn't know about the whatever the actor's called. I've forgotten her name.
Christy Swanson.
Buffy.
Kirsty
I
Swanson,
didn't know about that.
Kirsty.
Who cares? She's a fucking
Christy Swanson. I cannot remember her name for some reason.
It's not important.
So I sort of watched it separate to all that, but still, like, I don't know. Yeah, wasn't.
If you
great.
hated it, I hope it wasn't.
Glad I watched it. It's been on my
through.
list for ages. So no. Don't regret watching it at all. But yeah, I'm not going to be scoring it that highly. To be honest, it was sort of not great, but it wasn't bad enough to be funny a lot of the time.
Yeah, I get you.
So it kind of has to go past that sweet spot, and it didn't quite reach that. And it's sort of whatever the word for uncanny valley, but with you like
Unfanny.
Unfanny.
Well,
Unfanny.
there's no Fanny at all.
Yeah.
Where
I mean,
was
obviously,
she? I didn't see her.
It wasn't all bad. There was some great moments, and yeah, you say some of the
You can just say
acting
Paul
was
Rubin.
great. I don't
Paul
know.
Rubens is incredible.
Yeah.
I will say it's okay if you hate this and want it shot into the sun. That won't affect my enjoyment. I know.
Yeah, no, that's
A lot of my enjoyment is pure nostalgia because this movie is what I needed at the time in my youth. So I fully understand as an adult going back and just being like, "What the fuck is this?" So be as mean as you'd like. It's fine.
Yeah. Do you want my score?
Yeah, so just to remind everyone, these scores are wholly subjective.
No, mine isn't. Mine is
Apart from
objective,
Snipes,
so-
which is completely objective.
Well, yeah.
Mine
Snipes
always is,
subjective,
but the other guys, they try.
These are wholly
Yeah.
subjective, so what is the score out of 5 that you give Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Out of
Oh, yeah, it's out of 5. I was thinking it was out of 10. Oh, give me a second.
Yeah, well, no,
Out
we
of 10.
did-
Out of 10.
Oh,
Shit,
it's out of 10.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
we did
good.
out of 10. What the hell?
Oh yeah.
I was just debating out of 10. I was like, I don't want to give it this score out of 5. I'm going to go with a 4.
What's the sitch, babe? Why are you like?
No, I'm going to say 3. I'm going to say 3.
3.
3.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
I think that's
Buffy,
the lowest
but-
one.
That
That's
is-
okay.
Yeah, that's the lowest rating.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I
Buffy.
can't blame you. Shall I go next? So we'll let
Yeah.
you,
Let the apologist
expert,
go,
have,
yeah,
have
sure.
the final thing. Okay.
Okay, what do you think, baby?
Okay, so I actually right now I do not know what I'm going to score it.
Okay.
Because
interesting.
I am very torn with this movie. Because on the one hand, this movie sucks.
Yeah, it's not been put together well at all.
It's not very well made. Its story is not particularly comprehensible quite often.
That's Donald Sutherland's fault.
It's quite cheap in a lot of areas, and I would have, and if it was just that, it would be a no-brainer to just score it really low. It's just a bad movie, but I do really enjoy the performances of a lot of the actors. I think that if they are not like just completely chewing the scenery and having great fun with it, then they are just actors who are just quite personable. I think the cast is actually pretty good.
Excluding the obvious.
To be fair, she's in this movie. She's great.
In this before, the aliens corrupted her brain.
Well, that's the thing. Like that's the thing. It can make it awkward when you think about an actor. But I just to be clear, I am not judging her acting by her present day views. I think she's actually really good in this movie. But I think that's the thing. The cast makes what should be a shite movie watchable. Like it makes occasional moments really quite fun.
Yeah,
but it's still a terrible movie, and I'm sitting there and I'm going like, I gave fucking Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, I think a 5. And I'm like, can I live with myself if I give this movie a worse score than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, which I think is a much worse movie. But I do have more fun with it because I have more nostalgia for it.
Well, we're not really judging how well it was put together.
Well, that's part of it, you know.
But
like,
it is just kind of... Well, it can be part of it, but you decide the metric.
Yeah,
which you
that's the
rate
thing.
it.
I'm having.
Do you want to hear what I feel before you give your number?
No. I think I've got it. I think I am gonna have to give it like. I think it might have to be a 4.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, it's a 4 because it is just quite bad, and it just has some really good moments because I enjoy the actors doing their thing, but like I don't have the nostalgia for it to like
that is a massive
to have
thing.
that extra bit of
if you
enjoyment.
don't have that, then it will make it seem a lot worse.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
giving it
so
a
I'm
4.
a 4.
Giving
I'm
it
a
a 4.
4. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, do you want to hear my score?
Strong start.
Okay.
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 Yep.
Now, I have mentioned before, this was one of my favourite movies growing up as a little child.
Yep. Understandable.
In the bush, where I grew up in the bush, obviously. It was nice, again, to see a blonde person who is considered stupid and a woman actually kick ass. Even if, it wasn't put together well. And I am looking a lot through nostalgia vision. And I will say, what makes this movie great to me, apart from just having a bit of representation, is the acting in it. And how, they are like fucking Paul Rubens and Rutger Hauer and Donald Sutherland and all of them. They're just so charming and so entertaining. And like that, the staking scene with Pee Wee Herman's character is so funny. To this day, I think it's hysterical. I love it.
It is.
It's so fucking funny.
I
and the fact that it was an
genuinely
ad-lib
love
makes
that.
it so much better.
I love that scene so much.
It's so fucking funny. And
if the movie was that scene on its own, perfect 10.
That's Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Perfect 10.
Just that one, 30 seconds long. 10 out of 10. Perfect movie. Citizen Kane fucking who? Fuck that. No. Honestly, I'm gonna give it a 7.
7? Okay.
Which I know is like, it's a bit higher.
That's fine.
But I could watch this because I have the nostalgia there. And I just like it. I can't help
that's
it.
fine. You don't need to justify yourself more.
And I appreciate I have skewed the rating so badly by giving it a 7. But I genuinely feel that that's fair because it's got so many problems. But and normally I would give it just a flat like 4 or 5. But the acting and the chewing of the scenery is so enjoyable. I cannot help it.
That's completely fair. That is completely fair. So that means that Buffy the Vampire Slayer has got a 4.7.
Which is the same as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
Which feels fair, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they're both bad movies for different reasons. So
It does mean
make
that
sense.
it is not the worst movie we have seen by this metric because Gorgo does go below that. Yeah, as we all of them that have had a point have been a 0.7. They've either been an 8.7 or a 4.7.
Well, I mean, there'll be a 0.3 or a 0.7, won't they?
Yeah, there'll be a 0.3 or 0.7.
Yeah, exactly. Maths.
Yeah.
Just 'cause there's 3 of us. But
So
that
was my pick,
That
and
was
the
your
next pick is Drumbly Bum.
Yay! Well, thank you for suggesting it.
Thank
Yes.
you. I'm glad, and I'm glad that you guys could at least enjoy it, and it wasn't like because whenever I want to suggest something, I don't want it to be boring to sit through. I want it to be, if it's bad, I want it to be entertainingly bad. You know what I mean?
I think the nature of this means that most of the time we're going to avoid boring films at least.
Yeah.
And I think what's probably going to happen over time is that there's probably going to be a bit of a shifting of how we grade things because
Oh, definitely.
Well, we're still learning, still figuring it out.
because right now we had Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie to like set our standards as to what we consider good and bad, and that's a really bad yardstick. So far, we haven't. We even when we've had something that's been kind of bad, it's at least had a little bit of charm to at least some of us. So
Yeah.
we've not got lower than a 4 yet. And considering some of the movies we watched, I think that's gone pretty well.
Yeah.
But for our next movie,
Yes.
what are we going to be watching, Matt?
So I kind of forgot that it was my choice. So I've been thinking about it on the fly the last 10 minutes.
Oh my god! The professionals.
No, I had an
in
idea
here.
anyway. So last time we spoke about not having any 80s films yet, which prompted me to look up what are some good 80s, or like some 80s films that I haven't seen. And there is 3 that stood out to me in the top sort of, the top grossing charts. And I appreciate, grossing doesn't at all mean good or not, like irrelevant. But I was like, okay, which one of these have I've just never seen in its entirety? One of which is currently available on streaming services, so that made the decision for me. We are going to watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Because I've never seen it.
Okay.
Okay.
And I've been meaning to for ages and just can't find the excuse. So I'm going to use this as an excuse.
I'm actually real excited. Because I have memories. I have good memories of that movie. I've not seen it. I've seen it maybe once or twice. Yeah, that was years and years and years ago.
Yeah, I used to have it on VHS, like taped off the TV VHS.
So you could pause it in the
I watched it mostly before that age group.
Okay, I've seen Jessica Rabbit's pussy. It's fine. It's
I think that's the only thing I know about it. I'm going to be shocked when I found out what this film's about, actually.
Yeah, you'll be like, well, why isn't she flashing her fucking labia? What is this shit? Fucking, there's a cartoon rabbit? Fuck off.
Yeah. Anyway,
Give me cartoon labia.
Yeah. This episode is way too long as it is.
Okay.
So,
thank you very much for listening, everybody. Yeah. Remember, we are watching for the next one, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Let us know what you thought about Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the comments. If you thought it was a masterpiece, like I obviously did. But yeah, thank you very much, and we shall see you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.